I wish people were harder on me. The first person that was ever hard on me was Jim Franco, my mentor that I told you about. He called me kid, and I was like, well, I have 3 jobs because I don't have enough personal training clients. He's like, no, you have 3 jobs because you don't know how to sell. You're an order taker. Selling is persuasion. Selling is getting the other person to think like you do, and you don't know how to sell, kid, and that's why you have 3 jobs. I wish more people would have been harder on me. Maybe my life would have been just as good, but sooner. I've got this mindset of never peak. The best is yet to come. And I realize I won't be as strong as I used to be. But that doesn't mean I can't learn a new language. Doesn't mean I can't learn a new discipline like jujitsu. I want to peak as I'm dying on my deathbed. Like the last thing I did was like take on a new skill, new challenge. I don't think anything is new out there, like on my podcast or your podcast or on stage when I'm asked to speak.
No, everything here is totally new.
Right. I mean, except here. Yeah. I stand corrected.
Ladies and gentlemen, as always, it's both an honor and a pleasure to welcome my next guest to the podcast. He's the owner of Fit Body Bootcamp, which is a franchise we're going to get pretty deep into on the business side. He's a author of the book called Man Up, which we're also going to talk about at length in terms of sons and fathers and that relationship and the degradation of society that's associated with it. He's the host of the BK podcast, which has an enormous following on YouTube. He's a mentor, CEO, and investor, and an overall business guy. And last but certainly not least, he's an immigrant who escaped communism and came to the U.S., I would say epitomizing the American dream. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the stage, Bedros Keuilian.
Mike, thank you for the opportunity, man. I appreciate it.
No, I appreciate you carving time out of your schedule. I know you're one of the busier guys I know, and I know a lot of busy guys. So what's the last full book that you've read?
The last full book that I've read, this is bit of a cheat because there's about 8 books that I reread over and over again. It's Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. I recently refinished it, probably for the 19th time.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you normally just read those 8 books, or do you
it's
read
rare that I'll pick up a new book.
Really?
Yeah.
Can you list the other 7?
So it's Outwitting the Devil, Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. Dan Kennedy has a great book called Ruthless Management of People and Profits. You've got Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. You've got Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway by Suzanne. Oh, I'm missing her last name. I love giving her credit. That's number 5. And then you've got Joseph Campbell, The Power of Myth. Victor, it's on the tip of my tongue. Man's Search for Meaning. Viktor Frankl. And there was one more book, and that is No More Mr. Nice Guy by Robert Glover. And those books together, for me, and I think for most men, will give them a really good 30,000-foot level view of how they need to carry themselves in life, in business. And the reason I reread them over and over again is I believe, like a movie, you see, Pulp Fiction's my favorite movie. So you watch Pulp Fiction once, you're like, holy crap, like that was a good movie. But it's pretty complex. You might have a hard time explaining to someone what took place, what was really in the briefcase, why was it glowing, all that. You read a book once, you can explain it to someone. I don't think you have a full understanding. You read it 2 or 3 times, you might have a better understanding. When you read it to the point that you can teach it, you have mastery. And when you can master the writings of someone, they took 25, 30 years of their life and put it in a book, and you can teach it, you have mastery. Now you can truly apply it to your life. And I kind of like the Bruce Lee thing where you can take one punch and practice it 1,000 times versus 1,000 punches one time. He says, I'm always more worried about the man who can practice one punch 1,000 times. Those 8 or 9 books are, to me, the foundation of what I need personally to stay the path as an entrepreneur, a leader, a father, a human.
Is that that eight book list? Is that something that you talk about and or incorporate into some of your presentations and kind of business events?
I do. In fact, I don't think anything is new out there, like on my podcast or your podcast or on stage when I'm asked to speak.
No, everything here is totally new.
Right. Except here. Yeah. I stand corrected.
Yeah.
Right. So oftentimes when I'm on stage speaking, I'm like, I'll give credit. This is why I really love giving credit to the authors, because I'll take something and I'll extract that from my life and I'll teach it as a lesson. But where I learned that from was this book and that book. Yeah. But by reading it repetitively, I've mastered it.
Yeah. Have you brought any of them into events to speak or anything like that?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite quote?
Yes. How you do anything is how you do everything.
Yeah, that's a favorite of mine also, for sure.
Yeah.
What's one thing?
Eckhart Tolle.
Eckhart, yeah.
Yeah.
What is one thing that you wish you were better at?
The guitar.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I got one right back here.
I know, I'm horrible at it.
How long have you been playing?
So I do these 6-week challenges, and I did a 6-week challenge playing the guitar, and I got fat sausage fingers.
Yeah.
And I'm a lefty, so
okay.
I bought a acoustic left-handed guitar. I could strum some Metallica, slow stuff, but horrible compared to my son Andrew, who's just got long, thin fingers and is just so good at it.
Yeah, that's awesome. How old is he?
He's 18 now.
18.
Yeah.
Well, he's probably ripping it in a band by now then, huh?
He's pretty damn good. Yeah.
That's awesome. If time travel were possible, where and when would you go and why?
Dude, if time travel were possible, I would go to the 60s, possibly 70s. And I would probably be part of organized crime.
No shit.
I'm being very honest with you.
Well, I mean, in that case, why not go forward, get lottery numbers and some sports outcomes, and then come back and now you're a fucking billionaire.
I don't want that outcome.
Yeah?
I
play the game.
The lifestyle. There's something about that lifestyle. I've always known that if I wasn't an entrepreneur playing this game, which in a lot of ways is
legalized.
That's all it is, right? And the government legalizes it, and they've created their own racket. But that's a different topic. I would go back, and I would create my own syndicate.
Yeah, I like it. Guys, real quick, I've recently launched Patreon for the all-inclusive mic drop experience. This goes above and beyond just ad-free. Yes, you are getting ad-free episodes, but you're getting before and after bonus footage of myself and the guest in studio, in many instances outside of the studio, doing jiu-jitsu, dog stuff, car, motorcycle, recovery, fitness, lifestyle, all kinds of different things. All the different things that I have going on are included in that Patreon page. We're releasing content multiple times a day, every single day. And I want to offer that to you guys. Just go to my Patreon page. The link is in every description or any platform that I'm on, and come enjoy that experience with me. That content is for you guys. It's what you want to see. It's about you. It's about what world you want to peek into in terms of all the different things that I have my hands in, and we're bringing that to you guys just for you. And I want to take one quick second to just say thank you to everybody who already has signed up. Without your support, we couldn't do what we do for you. So thank you to you guys, and I look forward to seeing you in there. What are the two key components for canine success? That's effective training and proper nutrition. Fueled by Team Dog brings those two components to your family and best friend. The perfect nutritional balance that results in a higher mental acuity, energy, overall vitality, and even an improved appearance. Every product you will find in my company's store was born from the battlefield and not from the boardroom. Let my life's work help you become your dog's hero. Do you have an EDC? Not just specific to guns. I know you're in California, which makes it more of a challenge. But do you have like a I always carry this with me kind of no matter what?
Yeah. So at home, it's a Glock 43 with mag guts internal, which gives me 9 rounds instead of the 6. A Dynamis blade, fixed blade knife, a tourniquet, currently in my backpack, minus the knife and the pistol, gold coins, $10,000 cash, my passport, which I've had to use at Hurricane Sandy when I was stuck in Hurricane Sandy in New York. I used $7,000 of the $10,000 to get myself into Toronto, both JFK and I was out there speaking at an event. Both, Hurricane Sandy hit. First day, everyone's looking out for each other. By day 2, hotel doesn't give a shit about you. Elevators are busted. Oh, flashlight. I've got a little Olight rechargeable flashlight that I carry with me at all times. And one of those tools that you can access water from any building. I guess that's a great thing about having friends in special operations.
Yeah.
You guys have conditioned me well over the years. And because of that, when Hurricane Sandy hit, I felt I was fully prepared. And I would tell people, I got gold coins. They're like, why? I'm like, you never know.
Yeah.
And I didn't have to use the gold coins, but dude, a sandwich at a bodega in Manhattan was $32. I'm talking like a sandwich, like saran wrapped.
Really?
Right.
Just because of the supply demand.
3 days have gone by. The subway's completely flooded. People are trying to get out of Manhattan to go to the other boroughs to get back home. They don't give a shit about you. Cars aren't coming. Car services aren't coming to pick you up. Taxis aren't working. LaGuardia, JFK is closed down. My flight's long been missed 3 days ago, and so I'm making my way. So I called a mutual friend. He had a friend who's got a lifted truck, drives through the tunnel, picks me up. So for 3 days, I survive off that money, and his friend comes and picks me up, takes me through Buffalo, New York, into Canada. From there, I fly out of Toronto to Atlanta to California, because I had cash and my passport with me.
Wow.
Even though I was flying domestic.
Yeah. Man, that's wild. Can we take two steps back, I guess, or two questions in relation to, you keep 10 grand in cash and gold coins. The gold coins, are they recent specific ones? Is it a certain amount worth? Like what?
Three gold coins, each one an ounce.
So that's what, like $7,000 worth ish?
What is it now? About 1,500 an ounce, I think.
Oh, is it?
For gold?
It could, I don't keep track. I guess the last time I checked, I thought it was close to 2, but
is it? It might be.
Or maybe over, but
yeah. And again, what are the odds of the dollar crashing while I'm traveling somewhere? Whatever. But if I have to barter that out, I will. Yeah. Oh, and also I carry a multi-tool with me, not here, but again at home.
Yeah. Have you ever lost your bag or gotten it stolen? I mean, there's quite a bit of money in there.
Yeah, I realize now I probably shouldn't have shared.
That was going to be my next question. Is like, have you told other people that? Because
no one's ever asked me.
Everybody's going to be like, I know that motherfucker's got 20 grand or 15 probably at least.
Yeah. No,
we can edit it out.
Knock on wood, I haven't, but I keep a very close eye on it.
Yeah, I can imagine. For the gold coins thing, is that something that you're into otherwise? Having gold, a certain amount to leverage?
Of hard gold,
yeah.
Yeah.
Is there, from flipping over to the business side, is there a percentage of wealth that you think makes sense to keep in gold?
It all depends. Like if you make I make a good amount of money. And so if I were to break it down a percentage, I'd probably say about 3% of my wealth is in physical gold.
Yeah.
Like physical
that you
gold.
Actually keep.
Yeah. And in ammunition, which is like the next thing to gold, right? If the poop were to hit the fan. I'm not paranoid. I'm prepared.
So you keep gold and brass.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Gold and brass.
Yeah. That's awesome. All right. Do you have a morning routine? Like what time do you get up in the first 3 hours of the day? What does that look like?
Yeah. So wake up at 5:30 in the morning. Drink 30 ounces of water because Sean Stevenson said so in his book, Sleep Smarter. Your brain dehydrates all night when you're exhaling. Send out 3 gratitude text messages to 3 people in life that I'm grateful for who have just done good for me and supported me. I feel like we all stand on the shoulders of giants. Like no one's ever self-made. So I'm not a naturally grateful person. I've conditioned myself over the last 10 years to be grateful by constantly sending out 3 text messages a day. The night before, I make a GSD list. I do a brain dump on my notes on my phone, get shit done list. And it has to do with money and meaning. So once I wake up, send out my gratitude text messages, drink my 30 ounces of water, shower, I go downstairs and I work off my GSD list, have my protein shake, 2 scoops of protein shake, my wellness shot that I drink. And then I think I sent you some of the wellness shot. Coffee, more water, work off my GSD list, like emails and text messages that have to do with money and meaning. First money, then meaning. Then I'll get to the gym by 9 a.m., work out, go across the street to the park, get a 3-mile walk, trot, light jog in, listening to podcasts or audiobooks. And then I'm at HQ from there by about 11:30, 12 o'clock, serving my team.
Yeah. And do you stay late?
No, and I used to, and because I'm very OCD. If I've got work to do, I'll just stay. My assistant, Joan, came up with a really good idea. She goes, well, if we take away your key, because I was complaining to her that I just stay, and at some point I actually had brought a toothbrush and started slowly moving into my office, and I would lock up and leave at 10 o'clock. And she goes, if we take away your key, you'd have to then leave with the last person out. Yeah. So for the last 6-7 years, I don't have a key to my building, and so the last team member out will see my truck outside, and they'll come into my office, knock on my door. Hey, I'm the last man out, usually 5:30, 6 p.m.
Does it ever turn into almost, I don't know if you recall, the Arnold and Carl Weathers rivalry when they were filming Predictor? Like, do your employees start to kind of outlast each other to be the last guy because they're walking the boss out?
There's a handful that do, and I realize that they're doing that, and I appreciate that. Yeah, those are the ones that kind of rise to the top.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's fascinating. All right, so in terms of the kind of the background and how you got to where you are today, I'd kind of like to just do like a chronological outline of where you're from and what growing up was like, the transfer to America and kind of how that all shook out. So where are you originally from?
Originally, I'm from Armenia, which when I lived in Armenia, it was under Soviet rule. It was part of the Soviet nations.
Are you a System of a Down fan?
I am,
because the lead singer, I think, is Armenian, right? Mm-hmm. And is pretty politically charged with causes as they relate to that.
Yep.
What was the kind of the gist or the Reader's Digest version of what the problem was and how it got there with Armenia?
Well, the Reader's Digest version was Armenia doesn't have any natural resources. There's nothing we can add to the world market, and therefore the nations that would be considered superpowers don't really have any interest in a small little country. And so when the Soviet Union took over Armenia, and Armenia was at war with Turkey, and Turkey continues still till this day through Azerbaijan to take parts of Armenia, there's no country, Russia now doesn't want to help and support, because it's like, hey, you're in your own country now, you're Armenia. In 1991, 92, the communism fell. You've got the United States using Air Force bases out of Turkey, so we have to support Turkey. I get it, like the American in me, and I'm American first, Armenian second. And I believe all immigrants that come here should adopt that mindset. I understand that. But I also see my tiny little country shrinking and full of corruption and nothing happening. There's currently a genocide taking place in Azerbaijan, and the world's blind to it. But we're also aware of what's happening in Ukraine and the Soviet Union, and that's because as a superpower, NATO, the United States, wants to be there on the border of Russia, touching it. And so while there's more death happening in Armenia and Azerbaijan right now, everyone's unaware of it, and it kind of breaks my heart.
Yeah.
But I also realize I'm a realist, and I also understand that's how the world is. There's probably other genocides taking place that I'm unaware of because I'm not from there.
Yeah. I mean, sub-Saharan Africa has been in turmoil that way for my entire lifetime, or as long as I can remember, and kind of similarly, it rarely gets highlighted or talked about, and I get it too. The vested interests that we have always take precedence, but it's no less heartbreaking. Did you have siblings?
Yes, yeah. I've got an older brother. He's 14 years older than me, and an older sister who's 16 years older than me. So I was 6 years old when we escaped the Soviet Union. I was the oops baby, so you can tell them two are 2 years apart, and I'm 14 years later, here I come. And my dad was a member of the Communist Party.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So at the time, he tells us such a great story. At the time, my dad says, it was in 1974, the year I was born. They come to him and they say, would you like the honor of being a member of the Communist Party? So you have a choice. Of course, if he says no, he ends up in Siberia, never to be seen again. So the answer is always yes. And so he becomes a member of the Communist Party, and but he was the most Americanized communist you would have ever seen. I remember at 4 or 5 years old, seeing him wearing Ray-Ban sunglasses, Adidas shoes, Jordache jeans, listening to Beach Boys and Elvis.
Yeah.
And he would get all this stuff on the black market because now as a Communist Party member, he has access to things from the West, right?
Yeah.
So that was pretty unique. Yet the whole time he was working under the table to amass 25,000 rubles to be able to bribe the Soviet government into allowing us to escape into Italy and then from there to the United States.
Do you know at that time about what 25,000 rubles would have been worth?
I don't.
Is that something that from your knowledge was frowned upon? Like, was he secretly the Adidas wearing guy, or like he wouldn't have want to been seen wearing that kind of stuff?
No, you could be seen.
Okay.
You could be seen, and he had a lot of respect, and everyone knew that he was a member, and his passport, he had a second passport, was dark red, like darker than your helmet there, like really maroon, dark red. And he never used it because you could go into any store and do an inspection and, get any favors that you want. Yeah. So my brother the story is that my brother would take that passport and take his girlfriends on a cab ride and then, go to the flower shop and get flowers for her and go to a restaurant and get food for her. And then, of course, who's ever in charge of that district would find out that that's not my dad, that's his son, and would drag him home and, you're not supposed to do that.
Oh, I can imagine. Yeah, I mean, everybody would be taking advantage of that.
Yeah. So my dad was just one of those guys where he said yes, and then he threw that thing in the drawer. My brother used the powers of the communist ways, but my dad was fully Americanized. He just loved the American way, freedom, opportunity, and he just wanted us to escape. And, of course, at that time, I'm sure you know, Soviet Union and Afghanistan were at war.
Yeah.
And my brother was about to turn 19, and at the time there, 19, you join the Red Army and you go to war. And my dad was saying, like, he would tell us, like, the hell if my son's going to go fight a war that these Soviets who invaded our country are now fighting a war there. They're coming back with limbs missing. My son's not going to be one of those. So he had a very high level of urgency to get us to freedom. And so he was a tailor at a men's suit manufacturing plant, and he had figured out how to set the pattern tightly close together on material. And he said for every 3 to 4 suits that they would make, there was enough, because there's spoilage, right? Because they're supposed to have all this material left. Well, he would put the patterns so tightly close together for every 3 or 4 suits made, there was enough material left for one suit. He would stuff that down his pants and take it home.
Yeah.
And then he would make vests, jackets, suits, pants for the local KGB agents.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
No doubt. Huh?
Yeah. And that's how he made that 25,000 rubles.
Man, that's wild.
Yeah, crazy, man.
So you spent 6 years there. From your recollection, what do you remember about growing up there?
The weather's always cold. Like the example I would give is, like northern Washington State comes to mind. I've been there a lot. Near Mount Baker, it's like always cold, and then you have like a few months of summer, and that was it. I remember long lines, waiting in line for food. Long lines. I had a giant fur coat that my mom would put on me, and we'd wait in long lines, and my mom would stand behind me, and this lady in a fur coat in front of me, and she'd just like back into me, and my face would be smothered by her fur coat because it's freezing, and you're waiting in line to get into a store to buy bread or whatever. Water, electricity was rationed. Food, we did every now and again have access to really good food like caviar, and because of my dad's role as a Communist Party member, he had access to some food. So imagine this, 5 years old, 6 years old, I'm eating sourdough bread with fresh butter on it with scoops of caviar and hot tea, right?
Wow.
And then all of a sudden come June of 1980, we go to Italy as tourists, and we spend 10 days at the American consulate. They pump my dad for information, which for some reason he tells me the story that they couldn't understand. He goes, they couldn't understand that even though I had a choice to say, no, I don't want to be a communist, why I had to say yes. So like for 10 days they're pumping, well, why did you say yes? Because you had a choice. Like, yeah, I had a choice, but I really didn't. I'd end up in Siberia. So they pump him for information and finally allow us to come as political refugees. to California. My dad got to choose the state that we can come to, and he chose California because it's warm. But I share that with you because my dad kind of told me in Italy, man, for 10 days, like, we're going to have such a different life. It's going to be such a better life. And he really set the expectations high. And then we come to California and we're living in this dude's apartment. He knew a friend of a friend. And we're living in this dude's apartment. It's a 2-bedroom apartment. He and his wife are living in one room. Family of 5, us, get the other room. And the guy goes, my wife's only cool with you guys staying with us for 1 month. So in 1 month, we do whatever paperwork we need to get on food stamps. We get into Section 8 housing in Santa Ana, California, which is like the armpit of California at the time. It was just like, of Southern California at least, gang infested, worn out, tired city. And my dad's delivering newspapers at night, pumping gas during the day. My brother gets a job within the first week. My sister gets a job. And I'm thinking, like, where's my fucking caviar, right? And I'm crying to my mom because I'm the baby of the family. I'm 6 years old now, about to turn 7. And I can't process, like, hey, my dad said America's a lot better. Well, I had access to bread and caviar and hot tea, and I had friends, and now I don't speak the language, and these kids are trying to beat me up, and we're eating some kind of weird government cheese, and I'm being laughed at going to school because I got a funny haircut and funny clothes. And so it took a couple years to assimilate, but I was pretty pissed at my dad. Like, hey, man, you promised a unicorn and delivered a donkey here, you know? And but as I got older, obviously, I understood.
Yeah. So you said you didn't speak the language. Did your parents know English coming over?
No. My brother and sister did. They had started university in Armenia, and they had, I don't know if my dad, I still don't know to this day if he had encouraged them to learn English or they just chose to.
Yeah.
So they knew English. My mom and dad and I had to learn it. I learned it the quickest just because I get to make friends in the community. And you're young, and so I got to lose my accent and all that, where my brother and sister still have a heavy accent.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah.
As you guys know, sleep is a huge component to recovery and really all aspects in life, and it's something that a lot of us have struggled with, for a lot of our lives, frankly. As you know, I've been a big proponent of Beam, which is a hot cocoa that you drink before you go to sleep, and it's helped tremendously in terms of hours of sleep maintained as well as the quality of sleep. Today, my listeners get a special discount on Beam's Dream Powder, which is their science-backed hot cocoa for sleep, and it's got no added sugar. Better sleep has never tasted better. As you know, other sleep aids can cause next-day grogginess and just make you feel crappy, but Dream contains a powerful all-natural blend of reishi, magnesium, L-theanine, and apigenin, also melatonin, to help you fall asleep, stay asleep, and wake up feeling refreshed. If you want to try Beam's best-selling Dream Powder, get up to 40% off for a limited time when you go to shopbeam.com/micdrop, all caps, all one word, and use code MicDrop, all one word, all caps, at checkout. That's shopbeam.com/MicDrop and use code MicDrop for up to 40% off. You guys know I talk about sleep a lot and recovery. Magnesium is a big part of sleep, but it's not only sleep that being deficient in magnesium can cause problems with. An estimated 75% of all adults in the United States are deficient in magnesium, and it's not just sleep. It can be digestion, it can be cognition, it can be energy, it can be recovery. Magnesium is a vital component to our body's process. And with that, a whole host of other issues can come from magnesium deficiency. It can be a root cause of anxiety, depression, insomnia, stress. All of those things combined are contributing factors to issues that a lot of people face. Ned has come out with the product Mellow, which is a magnesium product. It's a powerful daily super blend, and it contains 3 of the most bioavailable and nutrient-dense forms of chelated magnesium on Earth. 2 of the most stress-busting aminos, GABA and L-theanine, and over 70 trace minerals. Mellow is truly in a league of its own. It offers 300-plus benefits to help with better sleep and optimal health and wellness. It comes in 4 very delicious flavors. There's lemon, lavender berry, pomegranate, and naked, which is a stripped-down, flavor-free version that's great for adding to smoothies, coffee, shakes, etc. The folks at Ned have spent over 3 years developing their best-selling Mellow Magnesium Super Blend, and it's they've really gone to the ends of the earth to create one of the best magnesium products on the planet. Become the best version of yourself and get 15% off Ned products with code MicDrop, all caps, all one word. Go to helloned.com/MicDrop or enter code MicDrop at the checkout. That's helloned.com/MicDrop to get 15% off. These statements and products have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease or condition. Guys, as you know, I work with a number of different products. One that's easily the most near and dear to my heart from a cause standpoint and a personal relation standpoint is Bubs Naturals. The hat on the coffee table sitting right in front of me belonged to Glenn Doherty. It was a John Deere hat that I gave him. He had it when he tragically passed in Benghazi. And I was fortunate enough to get it back from one of the co-owners of Bubs. He sent it back to me to be able to keep. Bubs Naturals is a tribute to Glenn. He was one of everybody's, he was kind of that guy that was everybody's best friend. I met several people that considered him his best friend, and he was a guy that was impossible not to like, and just, caused happy waves that rippled through every community he was ever a part of. His nickname was Bub, and that's where Bubs Naturals comes from. But it's a lifestyle brand. It's inspired by Glenn. They give a ton to charity. They've donated over $200,000 to charitable causes since their inception in 2018. On Veterans Day, 100% of the proceeds go to the Glenn Doherty Memorial Foundation, which does phenomenal work helping active duty and children of lost active duty members go to college or scholarships that they've donated a ton, and they also are heavy into the recreation space of helping people do that, because that's what Bub was all about. They have collagen peptides, which I put into my morning routine every single morning, as well as the functional creamer / MCT oil that goes into it as well. They have hydrate or die electrolyte drink mixes, which are great for pre-workout, during workout, and post-workout to get all the added sodium, potassium, magnesium, etc. that's required when you deplete it. And they now have Bubs Brew, which is a specialty organic coffee that is also very, very good. It's USDA organic, fair trade. It's Whole30 approved, which is the first time that's happened. It's free of yeast, mold, and aflatoxins. Small lot roasted, guaranteed fresh, and it tastes great. Biggest thing is Bubs is a family company. The way that they started is, again, super close to my heart, with him being one of my closest friends for a long time. And I just can't say enough good things about that company, of the product that they put out, why they started, what they give back to veteran communities and the Glenn Doherty Memorial Foundation. And I encourage you to go to bubs.com, and now there's a landing page specifically for Mic Drop listeners. Just enter the code Mike, M-I-K-E, all caps, and you get 20% off your first purchase at bubsnaturals.com. So that's www.bubsnaturals.com/Mike. And you can check out the Mic Drop landing page and go support an amazing cause. Did you, in terms of that assimilation process over that couple-year period, did you play sports? Did you do any kind of extracurricular activities or anything, or was it just school and...
Just school and come back home, and it was survival, man. It was survival. We would just try and go from one shitty apartment complex to the next. My dad was just playing this game of Upgrade. And I remember him saying in Armenian that we seem to always run out of money before we run out of month. And that stuck with me. And so we would have to make a decision whether we're going to have water or electricity. And until the new month came. And so I remember that was a factor that was like, I'm going to be rich. And then my sister worked at a pizzeria that my dad also worked at, but they worked different shifts. My sister was a waitress at a pizzeria in that first couple of years, getting paid under the table. And the owner of the pizzeria was very suggestive, was very hands-on with her in terms of groping her and stuff. And she would come home crying. She was 22, right, at the time. She'd come home crying to my dad. And I hate telling this story, which is why it's weird. And I remember hearing my dad say, just one more month, work there one more month, because we needed the money. Like, he's got several jobs. My brother's got several jobs. My sister had one job, and she was going to Cypress College, like a junior college, trying to become like a dental hygienist by this point. And my mom's just trying to raise me, and she would cry 2, 3, 4 times a week to my dad, like, I want to quit. This guy's a horrible person. And you look at the age difference between me and my sister, we're 16 years apart. So you could imagine she did a lot of raising me. She was like my sister and a mom to me, right? In Armenia, like, I would remember playing around outside, and then she would open the window and she'd lavash bread, which is like the Armenian version of tortilla. It was like, imagine tortilla with like meat and cheese in it. She'd hand it to me and I'd eat it and keep playing. So she was like a mom to me. And so at this point, I'm 7 or 8 years old. And I go up to my sister as she's crying to my dad. And in an attempt to solve her immediate problem, I said, one day I'm going to be so rich that you'll never have to work again. And she just discounted me because she's crying, she's sobbing, she's trying to get my dad to convince my dad to let her quit.
And you're like, what, 9, 10?
Yeah, probably 8 or 9 at this point. I said, one day I'm going to be so rich, you'll never have to work again. In my head, I want to help my sister out. I realize in that now, like, that wasn't going to solve her problem then. And so those two scenarios, man, hearing my dad always say, we run out of money before we run out of month, and then seeing that we're running out of water or we run out of electricity, our electricity got shut down. And this is with, by the way, being on welfare, food stamps, having Medi-Cal. We were getting all the government assistance. It's just not enough. And so here we are now, the last 15 years, my sister's been completely unemployed. She's been working for me full time, doing nothing, taking care of my mom and dad. My mom recently died, and so I made good on my promise the last 15 years. But I always think about, like, what led me to where I am in life. I wasn't meant to be an entrepreneur. The pain of being broke was so fucking bad, was so awful, that I was just locked on. I need to make an obscene amount of money because money solves some of the biggest problems in my life, which is hearing my dad say we're running out of money and hearing my sister cry, wanting to quit a job where she's being basically assaulted, like in today's standards.
Yeah.
She was being assaulted sexually.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what was my path to entrepreneurship.
That's a powerful statement for sure, and it's to me fascinating. You know, I've been doing the show for a number of years now, and have had, you know, guests from all different backgrounds. You know, on both ends of the spectrum. Some that I'm not going to say silver spoons, but we're very, very lucky. I would say myself included. Like, I had a very normal upbringing. We certainly didn't have anything in excess. But we were safe and loved and you know, didn't experience a bunch of crazy stuff like a lot of my guests have. But what's interesting and equally fascinating to me is the response from being in those environments, and it usually is pretty one way or the other. There's normally not a lot of gray area. It either does what it did for you, and people are like, fuck that, I'm going to do this, and they're super motivated. But then there's other ones that it just kind of feeds them into this hamster wheel of that same cycle over and over. Mm-hmm. In knowing that and knowing, you know, where you came from and what it did for you, do you think, or why do you think it's kind of one way or the other? And is there something inside that determines that?
I would say it's the inside. It's nature and nurture, right? And I think where nature is concerned, I have a high level of, like, agency to want to be part of a solution. And then on the nurture side, to see how we lacked that one thing, I was like, well, if there's other people out there that can get it, so can I.
Yeah.
I just need to figure out how.
Yeah.
And but I'm really grateful that I have this, like, high level of OCD in me, high level of agency where I want to be solution minded And I think that's the advantage that I had. And then when I could channel that advantage of OCD and agency towards that problem of the absence of money, I was able to produce it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fascinating for sure. Did your dad ever get involved, or I mean, did he ever go talk to her boss, or was he? It was just kind of such a survival mode.
I don't think he did.
Yeah. How does that set with you being a father, and do you understand, or does it piss you off a little bit?
Yeah. That's why I'm always, my palms get, every time I tell that story, Mike, my palms get sweaty. I feel like I'm shitting on my dad, and I hope you understand. I hope your audience understands. I'm not shitting on my dad, man. He's my fucking hero.
Yeah.
He risked his life. Like, if they found out what we were doing, we had to pretend like we're going on vacation to Italy, because even though he bribed some government officials to fix our paperwork, because Italy was communist sympathizers, so that was one of the few countries you can go to in 1980s on vacation. You can't just be like, hey, I'm leaving for America, peace out, right? So this man risked his life. And he had a good life as a Communist Party member. Like, he was rocking Jordache and fucking Ray-Bans, and he did it for us. But I mean, the equivalent that I could give, it's not like where if you and I were to go to Japan, because today we have Google Translate where we can understand the culture quickly. We'd have to go to Mars. We'd have to go to Mars and not speak Martian and not understand the Martian culture. He was so out of his depth. I'm not trying to make excuses for him. I feel like if it was me, I'd still go have words with the guy, right? Yeah. If I was my dad. He came here, it was California in his 40s. He was 44. As far as I know, he didn't have any conversations with that guy. Does that sit well with me? No, it doesn't. I wish he did. I also wish he was more bold than just opening up a little tailor shop in Anaheim, California. Like I cover all of their life expenses. I paid off their house. My driver, Hugo, drives them around to Glendale, because that's like where little Armenia is. And so when they want to do shopping, Armenian grocery shopping, like, I just wish he would have done more once he got here. But, whatever, I could wish all I want. He did the best he could with what he had and what he knew and how much risk he wanted to take. And he put me in a position, teed me up to take even bigger risks. So I'm grateful for that.
Yeah. You talked before we started recording a little bit about trauma and physical and sexual abuse that you experienced growing up. Was that in Armenia, in the United States, both?
Yeah, so I was molested by 2 older boys over and over again in Armenia between the ages of 4 and 6. It started when I was 4, and it ended when we escaped, right? And I didn't share that with anyone, ever, until when I was 38 years old. I had a massive anxiety attack. I was building Fit Body Bootcamp. And, it's stressful when you're trying to build a big international fitness franchise, gyms all over the country, all over the world. And I had this big panic attack that led me to a doctor, because I thought I was having a heart attack. I'd never had a panic attack. So the doctor checks me out, EKG. He's like, dude, your heart's fine. But I think you had a panic attack. I'm like, oh, okay, what's the solution? He goes, Xanax. And he puts me on Xanax. And 3 or 4 days on Xanax, I had like no creativity, no ambition to work, nothing. I didn't feel anxious, but I also was like...
You didn't feel anything.
I didn't feel anything. Yeah, I couldn't feel my hands. Yeah. I'm like, there's like this monster in me who's like driven to work is gone. So I call him up and I'm like, hey, doc, like, what's any other drug that's not going to make me feel so like lethargic? He goes, how about talk therapy? A good therapist can give you tools. I went and saw a therapist because again, I'm very goal-oriented. I have a lot of agency. So I meet this therapist, Kevin. He ended up actually being my 3rd therapist. I went to 2 other ones. They were horrible. This Kevin Downing in Brea, California. And I'm like, all right, how many sessions to help me cope with my therapy? He goes, I don't know, 3 or 4. I'm like, cool. So in my head, I'm like, 4 weeks, I'm out of here. I'm done, because I need a start and an end to everything I do in my life. I'm very driven that way. And so by week 4, he gave me all the tools. Anxiety is anticipation of future pain. Action alleviates anxiety. Manage your HALT. HALT stands for hungry, angry, lonely, tired. If you're hungry, angry, lonely, tired, and you're an alcoholic, you're more likely to go to the bottle. So manage your HALT, you'll be fine. So he gives me some tools, and true to form, those 4 weeks, like, I was really able to manage my shit. And I was like, well, thank you. Signing my credit card receipt. on that fourth and final session, and he goes, "Hey, before we leave, is there anything else you want to talk about?" And I realized now in hindsight, maybe it was just he was trying to retain a client, right? Because he's about to get an open spot on the couch. And I was like, "Nope, nothing else." He's like, "Well, what about your family? Surely like everyone's families give him some kind of trauma." And I was like, my dad's a former communist, like I told you, and so he was pretty heavy-handed with me. And quite honestly, I preferred beatings by my dad than my American friends who were put on restriction. Like I couldn't understand why if I would knock on little Mike Ritland's door, you're both 10 years old, let's say. I'm like, "Bro, can you come out and play?" You're like, "No, I'm on restriction." And I remember asking my friend Scott, "What is restriction?" He goes, "For the next 2 weeks, I can't play with the G.I. Joes, I can't watch TV, and I can't come out." And I remember asking my friend Scott, like, "Your mom or dad can't just beat you, like slap you around and then you're good?" I felt like I had an advantage. Like my dad would just like give me a beating until my mom jumped between us.
It's water under the bridge.
That's it.
Yeah.
Then I can go play.
Yeah.
And my friends had it bad. So anyway, I'm telling this to Kevin and he's laughing. I go, plus the beatings my dad gave me were nothing compared to what happened to me in Armenia. And why I threw that nugget out, I have no idea, man, because I had buried that fucking thing, the sexual trauma, so far back in my brain. But I realized in hindsight, Kevin had built such rapport with me over those 4 weeks that I just felt safe to do that with him. And he goes, "What happened to you that was worse than the beatings your dad gave you?" And I just like fell apart crying. So then 15 months of therapy began. Yeah. What was going to be my last session was the beginning of every Monday for 15 months. A lot of healing, first time ever addressing what happened to me as a kid. The shame, the rage, the confusion, shame. Like no one can find out about this. Like Mike can't find out about this. He'll think I'm fucking broken. He'll think I'm like fucking trash. Confusion. Am I gay? Did I do something to get those 2 older boys to do this to me? Did I invite that? Like, what the fuck is the matter with me? And then rage. Like, why didn't anyone stop this? The Russian culture, the Armenian culture, the babushkas, they're like the captains, I guess, in your world, the chiefs of the community.
Yeah. The
grandmas, the babushkas. So your grandma can discipline me, but then bring me into her house, your house, and feed me because the village raised the kids. But they drag me by the ear and make me wash my hands before sitting down and eating, and then tell my mom and dad everything I did wrong that day, and vice versa. And I was telling Kevin, like, these fucking old ladies, like, they were like the mafia, man. They ran the fucking community we lived in. Surely they had to know what was going on. And Kevin asked, well, if they did, what would they have done to those older boys? I was like, dude, they would have tore them limb from limb. He goes, doesn't it stand to reason then they didn't know that those boys were effective in doing this, like in the back of a carport, out of sight? And for the first time ever, I was able to put that rage to rest. Like, I had so much anger. Like, these fucking old ladies would give me a whooping just for having dirty hands and coming into their apartment. Yet I'm being molested and they're not looking out for me. But they didn't know.
Yeah.
And so it's funny, the stories we tell ourselves, and we build these mountains out of molehills over years. Yeah. But yeah, that was, so you hold on to all that sexual molestation, the trauma from that, and you come to America and you're beat up by the blacks and the Mexicans. Were always fighting the gangs in Santa Ana. And then here come the foreigners. And then now they just turn on you. And so you're having to learn how to fight. My dad handed me a screwdriver, a flathead screwdriver, because I got my shitty little bike stolen that he bought from a garage sale, and he beat me and then handed me a screwdriver and said, go get your bike back. I was like, what the fuck am I supposed to do with this?
How old were you?
10.
Man.
Right? And he's like, stab the biggest guy next time, and the rest of them will run.
No shit.
I'm like, what the fuck are you supposed to do, dude? Right? And
did you go get it back?
I got my bike back, yeah.
Is that, have you told anybody about that? Did you stab the biggest guy, or what did you do?
I attempted to when they tried to fight me again to not let me take my bike. I attempted to, and he just, like, they tackled me. And I just remember, like, how hard it was to try and penetrate. I'm not from your world, like, especially as a kid, like, I don't know what it's like to fucking stab something. It's not a knife.
Yeah,
a flathead is pretty blunt.
I would hope that the overwhelming majority of 10-year-olds don't know how much force it takes to stab somebody. But
and I remember thinking in that moment, like, and I remember he realizing this, like heavy set Mexican gangbanger. realizing like, oh shit, this kid's trying to stab me, and him now trying to push off of me instead of like still like trying to mount me and punch me. And everyone else took off. Like no one was jumping in to help him when they were trying to see that I was just very, in the most ugliest fashion, trying to stab him. But I got my bike back, and it was the first time I felt a sense of respect. And it was years later I ended up carjacking with these guys and stuff like that. But I got involved, again, out of the need for money and approval and validation from them. But anyway, I share that with you because the getting beat up in these Section 8 housing complexes and then getting molested in Armenia and then thinking like that has no effect on my life as an adult. I mean, you're fooling yourself. Anyone that walks around life having experienced trauma, physical, mental, emotional, sexual, Kevin, my therapist, told me, he says, if we did a CAT scan on you right now, he goes, the part of your brain that would be lit up is the fight or flight system. The fight or flight system would be lit up like a Christmas tree. And he goes, it doesn't matter if they've been sexually, mentally, physically, or emotionally abused. Like, you're on fucking edge, right? And so you go through life in a relationship, business partnerships, marriage, and friendships, always like fists up metaphorically. That's what I had done. I always thought you were the problem, and she was the problem, and he was the problem. When in reality, I just had no trust. I'm always like this like ball of nervous system that's charged. And so at the age of 38, I got to heal through that as well. And to sit here and talk about it openly, to get on stage and talk about it, I feel it's my duty now to do that. Like that's the level of healing, man. It used to be like no one can find out about it. I didn't even think about it. And now I can just talk about it as though it's just a blip on my timeline of life.
So from the time you came here at 6-7 years old until that 38-year-old you going through the healing process of therapy, you really never thought about it?
When it would pop up every now and again, I was really good at escaping from it by distracting myself with whether it's drugs or girls or whatever.
Yeah. This would probably be a better question for your therapist, but I'm curious if you have any insight on the specific issue where your rage originated from. Was the feeling that these babushkas, basically knew but weren't doing anything about it? When you were able to kind of escape from that understanding, that's what helped you heal. I'm curious, a much more common scenario is a family member is doing something, maybe mom knows and just isn't doing anything because she's scared or in a position where she's dependent on that person. Do you have any input with all of the kind of work that you've done and looking at it from somebody who's healed through that? How would somebody heal through that? Like let's say you knew, your mom knew something was happening, but either felt trapped or just didn't know what to do, maybe financially was so dependent on the dad or, whatever the scenario is that, and so now that rage is originating from mom.
If I were to channel Kevin, and I'm pretty certain this is what he might say, which is it's going to have to be forgiveness. It's going to have to be forgiveness. Maybe not forget, but if you don't forgive that mom who felt like, well, we're trapped, we have to stay in this marriage, and this dad keeps abusing, but I have to turn a blind eye to it. It has to be forgiveness, because otherwise you carry so much piss and vinegar with you that it will erode you from the inside. Just like that rage was eroding me from the inside.
Yeah.
Like I kept telling Kevin, he goes, how does that rage show up? And I was able to tell him very clearly. I said, it's a rage in my eyes, a chip on my shoulder, and a fire in my belly. Like, that's what I feel like, this burning in my belly, this fucking rage in my eyes. Like I could walk through fucking any wall and just fucking achieve anything I want and just fucking power through anything. And then like everything was done with a chip on my shoulder. And you can achieve a lot in life that way, but you probably can't maintain that for the long haul, which also explains why, going back to one of the 9 books that I read all the time, Upper Limiting, Gay Hendricks, in his book, The Big Leap, there's that upper limit. There's only, Everyone who's gone through some level of trauma has an upper limit on how much money they can make, how much love they can receive, how lean they can get before they go, that's not me. I'm not supposed to be this fit. And then they sabotage and go to a place that they're familiar. And so that's what I would do. Because you can't just rage your way to making money. There's got to be a greater meaning behind it. And today it's the charities like Shriners Children's Hospital, Toys for Tots, and Compassion International that we've donated millions to every year. But I did it for I won't say all the wrong reasons. Like, I believe if our creator, God, the universe, whoever you look up to, he's put all those emotions in us: jealousy, rage, shame, regret, abundance, love, joy, bliss. Those are all tools on our tool belt, and you're probably supposed to use them at some point. But I don't know your world as well as I probably should. I'm guessing you don't go around just throwing a grenade everywhere. There's times where you need to use your rifle. There's times you need to use a sniper rifle. There's times you're using a fucking knife.
Sometimes you're using a bag of cash or a goat.
Right. Yeah, depending on the parts of the world you're in. Yeah. Right. So if everything, you can't treat everything as a grenade. And I think I had a hammer. The example I gave people is I had a hammer and everything was a nail. Yeah. And I would just hammer my way through life.
Yeah. That's the 60s mob mentality, right?
Right.
There you could raid your way to
yes.
a high net worth. All right, so going back to as you're growing up, was there a defining moment where, because you said it took a few years to kind of really realize that America was the better deal. Was there a light switch moment there, or was it a gradual, like when was the first time you really thought to yourself, like, man, America's pretty awesome. I'm lucky to be here.
I wouldn't say it was a light switch moment, but it was a chain of events where there was this young black kid named Dwayne. He was my first American friend. Dwayne, and then this white kid named Scott, who was my second American friend. And Dwayne and his mom and his younger sister lived together in one of the Section 8 apartments. And he invited me into his apartment, and Mom was making dinner. And I knew that we lived in low-income housing, so I knew everyone in this complex in Shade Tree Apartments barely made money. And you can tell, like, the sister just had nappy hair, and like we all had tore up clothes, but we had a good time. We were playing around and stuff. But his mom like sat me down and fed me, and I remember eating like authentic like black food, and thinking like, asking like, what is this?
Do you remember what it was?
Collard greens, and it was some kind of like very chewy meat. It was probably just low quality steak or something that she had pan fried. And I remember thinking like, that's really fucking cool. Like, I know we don't have a lot, so I know they don't either. And like my friend's mom is feeding me. Like, it was pretty rad. And then, so that was a piece of humanity I saw and experienced and felt really good about. And then when my dad was like 4 years into being in America, my dad was able to buy a little tailor shop. Like, all that money that the whole family was making, he put together, and he bought a little shitty tailor shop that was going out of business in Anaheim. The owner had a gambling habit, and so he had just let the business go. And my dad bought it for like a fire sale, but the business had a bad reputation. And my dad had made friends with everyone in the complex, in the community where we lived at this point in Anaheim. And a lot of those people were bringing their work, instead of taking it to the dry cleaners. Up until that point, they would take their alterations to the dry cleaners to fix a zipper or a hem or a button on a pants. They would bring it to my dad because they knew that he was just a good man. He would say hi in his heavy Armenian accent to everyone. Didn't matter what your culture was, interestingly enough. Like, he didn't care like what color your skin is, but it was a joke or a little piece of humor about my dad, because old people have this, and I don't even know, it's not even racist, but I don't know, about 10 years ago, I sent him and my mom to Jamaica because I wanted to go somewhere tropical. And so I sent him to Jamaica. And maybe I should have done a better job explaining the type of people that live in Jamaica. They're dark-skinned. They're black. So they come back. It's like an all-inclusive resort. They come back. We pick them up from the airport. Man, how's the trip, Dad? Amazing trip, but too many black people in Jamaica. I was like, Dad, shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. No. And he didn't mean it that way.
Yeah.
He's trying to say it in English, but what he's really trying to say is like, wow, I didn't realize it's like a black nation.
Yeah.
Right. But he's trying to piece together English words.
Yeah.
Too many black people in Jamaica.
And it comes out all wrong.
It comes out all wrong. But so he had built such rapport, man, in the community that the community brought so much of their work to my dad. And that ended up being the business that he worked 6 days a week in. He was only closed on Sundays. And I remember seeing the humanity, and he would talk about how nice it was for these people. They would tell him, hey, instead of the cleaners, I'm bringing my work to you. Instead of the cleaners, I'm bringing my work to you. And word slowly got out, and before you know it, he made himself enough money to buy a home in Anaheim. He bought a little rental condo that he, so he had a little passive income coming in, and that was like his little nest egg. And like, I saw a lot of humanity. There was a time my brother got in a fight with a tow truck driver because he had parked in one of the apartment complexes that we lived in. And the neighbors came out and explained that these guys are new here to this country. They don't know what the red line means. And so the management of the complex had called the tow truck, and my brother, being very hot-headed, it wasn't the tow truck that's flatbed, like in the 80s, they just lift the front end up on that thing. And so my brother, like an idiot, instead of trying to reason with him, just goes and starts pulling levers, and the guy like whacks him with a crowbar, and a fight breaks out. And so all the neighbors come out, again, to support and to help this guy understand, like, this dude he was just here for a minute. He doesn't know what the red line is. Like, it's going to cost their family a lot of money. And ultimately we got the car back. But again, I got to see so much great humanity, man. And that really showed me that America's a beautiful place.
Yeah, that's really cool. When you were going through childhood and growing up, ultimately getting into high school years, were you a good student, or did you play any sports in high school, or was it all just still kind of?
I wrestled for 1 year, senior year of high school, and that's because, so I had horrible grades in school. I just was not book smart. In fact, I remember sometime in junior high, I don't know if it's algebra or geometry, where the fuck it is, where you do FOIL, first, inner, outer, last in math. Mm-hmm. I came up with the answer, but the teacher didn't give me the grade because I wasn't able to show my work. I'm like, but this is the answer. Which, by the way, that was a precursor to being an entrepreneur. You just need the answers as an entrepreneur. You don't need to show the work. And so I remember getting frustrated. Like, I don't know how to do FOIL. Like, I don't know that. And so I was frustrated. So I was always like C minuses, D's, and F's. But bad grades all the way through high school. Junior year of high school, I asked my friend Dave Sanborn, who was the center of the high school football team, dude, you're jacked. How do I get jacked like you? I want to ask Nakaya to the prom next year, senior year. And my theory was, as a young man, that if I could not be a fat fuck, I was like 35, 40 pounds overweight, that if I could not be, and Dave would only talk to me in science class, bro. Like, then he would hang out with the jocks and the gothic kids. My generation had gothic kids. You probably remember.
Oh, yeah.
The goths hung out on their own, the nerds on their own, the music students on their own. And I was the kid during lunch who would just walk the perimeter of the quad. I had no group that I belonged to, and Dave would make no eye contact with me when he was with his jock friends. But in science class, like, we would ham it up and laugh it up. And I was like, dude, how do I get in shape like you? And he took me into the high school gym, and it was so fucking intimidating. Like, dudes lifting weights, clanging and banging, and like holy fuck. And then when the gym cleared out, he put me on the bench press, and the bar was wobbly, like just the bar, the 45-pound bar. And I remember feeling intimidated, but he trained with me a few times, and I got the hang of it. So I got a membership to Bally's Total Fitness at the time. And I spent all summer year before senior year, working out like a machine, eating as clean as I could. That's when I'd figured out higher protein, lower fat is good. And so I lost like 35 pounds, came back senior year, lean, wouldn't quite say jacked, but I had some muscle on me, more confident, higher self-esteem. But I never had the confidence to ask Nakai out to the prom. But because of that, I also, I was like, I'm gonna go out for wrestling. Like, my parents never put me in any sports. Anything that cost money was going to take away from the family, right? And it just wasn't their thing. Like, I don't come from an athletic background. And so at this point, I was like, I'm gonna make the decision for myself. Like, I work out now. And so I wrestled for a year, but because I didn't have history of wrestling, I was always on the bench. And but I really loved the training of it. And I was like, fuck, man, I missed out on a lot. I missed out on a lot, which is why in my later years, I took on all these challenges, like marathon challenge, jiu-jitsu challenge, no-gi challenge, MMA challenge, rock climbing, all the things I feel I missed out on life. I was like, fuck it. Now I got the money to hire a coach and go for 6 weeks, 3 times a week, and see how good I can get at something, And so I'm kind of healing old wounds by putting myself through these physical, mental challenges now.
Yeah, I love it. Does one of the 6-week challenges stand out for you making the most amount of progress in?
Probably the first one, the marathon challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I had told myself that I'm not a runner, that, God designed me to be big and strong because, senior year, started working out summer before senior year, and it stuck. And then living in Southern California, where the Mexican border is, not too far.
Yeah.
And so I was like, shoot, I could just drive into Tijuana and buy Cestanon and Decadurabolin. Right? And so my friend
supplements.
Yeah. My friend Mike Botticelli and I, we would take his the spare tire in his Ford Focus, and we would slice the spare tire along the rim, and we would buy enough gear, testosterone, steroids from Mexico, and we'd load up that spare tire, and then we'd put it back into its place and have a couple of burritos, a couple of drinks, and then drive back across the American border. And so I was like lifting, eating like a machine. I got into powerlifting in my early 20s. And that led to me being convinced that I'm not made to run, that I'm 245 pounds, massive traps, made to like deadlift, bench, and squat. And I realized, like, you know what? That means they're just stories we tell ourselves. And so I hired a marathon running coach, and I was like, hey, the San Diego Marathon is 6 weeks from now. I've registered for it.
Damn, 6 weeks to get ready for a marathon.
Yeah. And the only reason this became a 6-week challenge is because when it hit me, I was like, I looked up, when is the next marathon? It was the San Diego Rock and Roll Marathon.
Yeah.
And it was in 6 weeks. And so that's why I have these things stuck.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a creature of habit. If my first challenge was 6 weeks, they all have to be 6 weeks, right?
What a fascinating accident.
Yeah, dude. So she goes, look, every marathon also has a half marathon attached to it. Why don't you do the half marathon? That's great for a 6-week challenge. I was like, no, it has to be a full marathon because all or nothing. So long and short of it, I trained for 6 weeks, but about 4 weeks in, Mike, when you're running from Chino Hills and you get to Diamond Bar, like a city, 2 cities away, and you see the sign that says, welcome to Diamond Bar. That was a 13-mile run 4 weeks into my training. Dude, I got teary-eyed. I was like going to fall apart and cry. And I would train every night at 11 o'clock, 10, 11 o'clock at night, because I would work. I'm dad, make sure the kids are all tucked away, and then the family goes to sleep. I'd lace up my shoes, and then, all right, what does she have on my program tonight? Okay, walk, run, or run 5 miles, or jog 6. So 13 miles. I got to a sign that said, welcome to Diamond Bar. I'd only driven by that sign before. And I was like, holy fuck, my legs took me here, right? I was just in awe. And then so 2 weeks later, I do the marathon. Painful. I don't think anyone should train for 6 weeks and do a marathon. I also think everyone should, because you get to meet your higher self in that level of struggle and suffer.
Yeah.
And dude, I just felt so accomplished when I ran across that finish line. I saw people quitting, and I didn't quit. And I was like, I'm not just made to lift. I'm not made just to run. I'm made to do what the fuck I want. And from there, it was just one 6-week challenge after another, from like improv to salsa dancing to guitar lessons. So it wasn't all just physical.
Yeah.
And I'm actually thinking of doing a chess one next, because I want to play chess. And I just finished a no-gi jiu-jitsu. And some of the challenges stuck. Like, I'll never go running again. I'll never run again. Yeah. But I enjoy rock climbing. I don't do it as much as I like to. Surfing was another one I did. I surf pretty regularly now. I haven't surfed. I tore my tricep about a year ago, so I didn't surf for a while. But this past Saturday, I went and surfed, and I was like, fuck, I remember what this feels like. But surfing was a challenge I did. My dad had told me, like, man, you had an uncle that drowned in the ocean, so ocean's bad for us. And so you kind of adopt this story, right? Like, water bad. Yeah. And I'm like, fuck, man, I live in Southern California. Dana Point, like, there's songs written about the Doheny Beach where people surf. Like, why am I not surfing? Like, I need to surf. So I hired a surf instructor and did a 6-week challenge, and I longboard like a motherfucker now. And so jiu-jitsu with gi, no bueno, not me. I didn't like it. Jiu-jitsu no-gi, I fucking love. So it's weird. Some things stick, some things don't.
Yeah. Did you tear your tricep grappling?
No, boxing my son.
Oh, boxing your son.
Yeah, threw left cross and he checked me.
Oh, wow.
And pop goes the old tricep.
Yeah, I had the exact same injury about 5 years ago.
Did you get it reattached?
Yeah.
Shit, I haven't had mine reattached.
I mean, mine was a full tear, like with an avulsion fracture, so it pulled some of the bone from my elbow up. I mean, it had to be repaired.
Got it. Yeah.
But it happened to me doing jiu-jitsu, and it took about a year and a half before I could do everything normal again. I mean, it took forever for that thing to heal. But
yeah.
Is there a rhyme or reason that drives these challenges? Are they random? How do you come up with them?
I've got this mindset of never peak. The best is yet to come. And I talk about it in my book, Man Up. And I realize I won't be as strong as I used to be. But that doesn't mean I can't learn a new language. That doesn't mean I can't learn chess. Doesn't mean I can't learn a new discipline like jiu-jitsu, which is a big lie that it's the gentle martial art. It's not, as you know. Yeah. And so it's this never peak mindset that I have. I feel like the moment I feel I've peaked, first of all, Tony Soprano says the worst conversation that any two people can have is the remember when conversation. Like, hey, remember when in high school I played football in Polk High School, 4 touchdowns, Al Bundy, right? Like, I don't want to ever have the remember when I had, abs. Remember when I may not be able to be like, hey, remember when I won't be able to squat fucking 4 plates for reps, but I can do new things that my body and my brain will allow me to. And I just want to live the never peak mentality. I just love that. And I feel like I want to peak as I'm dying on my deathbed. Like the last thing I did was like take on a new skill, new challenge. Yeah.
Where do the ideas come from? Like, or how do you pick them?
When people hear that I'm doing challenges, you should try this, you should try that. And then also you do a little self-awareness, like what makes the butthole pucker?
Yeah.
And so with the rock climbing one, I've always been afraid of heights. I'll go on record and say I'm not suicidal, but you put me somewhere high and I just want to fling myself over.
Really? I
don't know what it is because I feel like if I do it, at least I have control over it because I'm going to fall any minute anyways, right? Yeah. And so a fun story there. Are you familiar with Joshua Tree in Southern California?
I'm not.
Joshua Tree National Park, just outside of Palm Springs.
I'm sorry. Yes, I didn't understand you. Yes, I've been there a bunch.
Yeah, so Joshua Tree National Park, beautiful rock faces to climb and mountains and stuff. And so I hired a rock climbing coach 3 days a week there for 6 weeks, and wanted to overcome that butthole pucker of the heights. And so I don't know what belay means. I don't know what these special shoes are that they're giving me. And he's explained to me, like, these shoes, like as you step in these little A cups in the wall, they stick, and this rope can hold up a school bus, so you're good. And here's how we're going to belay you. And I'm going to be down here belaying you while you're going up, and we're going to communicate. And here's your helmet. Okay, got it, check. It all makes sense when my feet are on the ground. Just so you know, when he set up the rope, this is, again, embarrassing to say, but at 49, I can say shit that's embarrassing. I don't care.
Yeah.
Bro, he, like a mountain goat, he went boop, 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 with no rope. To put the carabiners in.
Just free climbed up.
Yes. Yeah. Free climbed up, boop, 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 and then put the rope, right? And then comes back down, and then, attaches the rope to my harness. So I saw him with my own eyes, Mike, a minute ago. Free climb to the top of the carabiner there. So here I go. He's belaying me. I go up, I get high enough, and I'm like, his name is James. I'm like, James, I think this is good for today, man. High enough. Like I could see everything out in the horizon. He's like, no, Bedros, you got to go and touch that carabiner that I put up there. You're good. Like we're going to do higher ones by the time 6 week comes. No, I'm good, James. And now at this point, I'm just negotiating. I'm not going anywhere, man. I'm a fucking entrepreneur. I'm a salesman, right? Like I'm going down. Like I'm going to talk him into helping me come down. And he's like, no, Bedros, you're gonna keep on. I'm like, no. I feel like when I come in 2 days, I can go higher. We're just gonna ease our way. 6 weeks is a long time. It's 42 days. I got plenty of time. And he can see that I wasn't budging. And so all of a sudden, as I'm trying to rhyme and reason with him, I feel something touching the bottom of my shoe. It's him reaching up and tapping my foot. Bedros, you're okay. I was probably 8-9 feet off the ground, bro.
Yeah.
It was so embarrassing. And when he did that, it kind of jarred me into reality.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, I looked down. I was afraid to look down, right? I'm going to fall all this distance. And he's right there.
Yeah.
and I needed that.
Yeah.
And then off I went.
Yeah.
And but I'll find the things that make my heart flutter, that make my butthole pucker, and I'll go, I want to do that.
Yeah.
And life's too short to not.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's a great mentality. I'm a big proponent of always trying new things and always learning something. You know, to me, everybody should always be learning at least one new thing, you know, no matter what. All right, so going back to kind of your path, you graduate high school. Did you stay in that area and still live at home and work, or how did you get into starting the businesses and ultimately where you're at?
Yeah, so at that point, my dad and I had some disagreements because earlier on, kind of high school and the couple of years after high school, I was involved with the neighborhood gangs carjacking, and we would steal Honda Civics and Honda Accords because back then you could part them out to auto parts stores or auto body shops. Sorry, not auto parts stores, auto body shops who, instead of buying a right headlight from the dealership, they would buy it from us and therefore charge the customer less. It was a win-win for all. And so when you're carjacking someone, you justify to yourself that their insurance is going to cover it and no one's going to get hurt. We weren't looking to be violent. We just want to steal your car. And so that led to really being a fucking idiot and robbing homes, because we realized you could rob homes and steal their shit and take it to pawn shops. And when you're robbing a home, you case it beforehand, make sure no one's home. When my friends cased this one particular home, we didn't do a great job. And as it turns out, there was this little old lady who was there. I think it was like grandma visiting from out of town. And so I'm the getaway driver. I park 3 houses away across the street, and I'm looking kind of diagonally at the front door of the house. My friends get out of my pickup truck. They go hop the wall. They're going to break in. And I know about how long it's going to take. 8, 9, 10 minutes. Dude, within 2 minutes, they're hopping back over the wall, running. Like, drive. And so, boom, they get in the truck. I've got a camper shell on my Toyota pickup. It's a 79 Toyota pickup with an R22 engine, like a 4-cylinder, maybe 100 horsepower at best. And I'm fucking driving. I'm like, what's going on? They're like, fuck, dude, there was someone home. So all of a sudden that becomes a home invasion, no longer a robbery, a home invasion. And I'm driving, and within like 5 minutes, man, there's a helicopter. And I make a right-hand turn, this helicopter turns with us. I make a left-hand turn, it turns with us. I'm looking in my mirrors, I see unmarked police cars. I'm like, dudes, that helicopter's here for us. I'm in an old Toyota pickup. We're not, and I'm like, I just turned 20. We're not going anywhere. This isn't going to be like a highway, high-speed robbery, right? So I'm like, I'm going to pull into that gas station. As soon as I do, we're all running. Well, they obviously are prepared for it. So as soon as I pulled in, they jammed their front bumpers into my doors, which means we can't open the doors, and they pull us out the window, and they bring that lady in about 20 yards away in a car, in a cop car. They have us sitting on the front of another cop car, me and my 3 friends. She looks at each of them and nods her head yes, as in I recognize them. She looks at me and nods her head no, doesn't recognize me. So I just got my car impounded. My friends got arrested. That was a turning point for me in my life. And so that led to me living with friends after that. My dad was just like, get the fuck out of the house. And he had every right to. Obviously, I was being a shitbag. And so at the time, I was trying to get certified as a personal trainer. I also got a job right after that as a busboy at Disneyland. And about a year into my work at Disneyland, by the way, I don't know if you know this, Disneyland has a very high population of gay employees. And so
I did not know that.
Yeah, a lot of my coworkers were gay, and I was complaining to Bob and Randy, they're a couple, and I was like, man, I got all these nieces and nephews, and fucking holidays are coming, and between being a personal trainer who's only got like 2 clients and working here as a busboy, I don't have enough money. I was working Carnation Cafe on Main Street in Disneyland. I don't have enough money. And Bob goes, well, you don't mind hanging us with those fags here at Disneyland. His words, bro. I hope no one cancels this show, or me or you. He goes, you don't mind hanging out with those fags here at Disneyland, so you probably wouldn't mind hanging out with us at the bar we go to. I'm like, why are they hiring? Yeah, they're hiring bouncers. I'm like, well, fuck. Put in a good word for me.
Yeah.
3 days later, I'm working as a bouncer at Oz in Buena Park, California, at a gay bar, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday nights. And which was pretty fucking cool, man, because yes, it's a gay bar. However, a lot of gay dudes bring their straight friends, girlfriends, from their work. And so I call my friends like, dudes, fucking fish in a barrel.
Yeah.
Fish in a barrel. I'm like one of only 2 straight guys in the building, right? Like, you guys got to come. I can let you guys in. No, man, it's a gay bar. We're not coming. Like, you don't understand. There's straight chicks looking to get laid, fellas, right? So anyway, my friends never came, and so whatever, good for me. But I share that with you because at one point I was a personal trainer at LA Fitness, worked as a fry cook and a busboy at Disneyland, and then worked as a bouncer at Oz, and was, trying to get by. And that's where I met my mentor, Jim Franco, at LA Fitness. He was my 4th personal training client, and he started teaching me entrepreneurism, like in between sets. Like, we would rest, and I'm like, dude, how do you come here at 2 in the afternoon, 3 days a week? Like, don't you have a job? He's like, yeah, I'm the CEO. I own my own company. Whoa. You could leave whenever you want? Yeah, I just lead people. I manage people. Wow. And when I noticed her, like, kind of like Escalade, and then you drive in with the Mercedes, and you got that old classic car. He goes, yeah, you can have as many cars as you want if you make a lot of money. I was like, whoa. Like, that was like, I thought you were just supposed to.
World.
Yeah. So you don't just need to have like a 79 Toyota pickup? Like this guy was speaking so much like wisdom to me. And I was smart enough to go, if I give you, because he had purchased three times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I said, Jim, if I give you 4th session a week on me, can you then carve out time to teach me how to be an entrepreneur? Because I want to open up my own personal training studio. Because he had said, like, why don't you have your own personal training studio? And I was like, I don't have the money, right? So he brought me books and like Zig Ziglar and Tom Hopkins and Jay Abraham, like sales and marketing books. And so I started getting better at sales and recruiting clients off the gym floor. I was like, dude, I think I want to open up my own personal training studio. Because right now, the money that I make, the sales that I make, LA Fitness keeps, they pay me $12.50 an hour to train people. Yeah, I get a 10% commission off that sale, but I want the big bucks, right? And so he said, well, if I loan you 50 grand at 8% interest, after you pay me back, I want to still be your business partner in your gym that you open. It's like, sure. That was a very sharky deal. I realized like that was like a very sharky deal. But that's how Jim taught lessons. Like, if you're not smart enough to counter him, then too bad. And so he was my business partner on my first personal training studio called Premier Results. I opened up 4 more within the next 4 years on my own without him. Ended up selling those and having my first exit by the age of 26, 27. And I was like, shoot, I like this entrepreneurship thing. The internet's starting to pop off at this point. Like, I think I can coach other gym owners and teach them how to do what I did. And it just kind of started there. And it was just a beautiful journey.
So after you did the exit with those 4 studios, what was your next play?
My next play was, so there's this publication called IDEA, like International Dance and something association, like Fitness Association, IDEA magazine. And it was the publication for all certified personal trainers that they would get. They ran an article on me that, this personal trainer builds these personal training studios and then sells them, right? So I started getting gym owners reaching out to me. Can you teach me what you did? And these are not big box gym owners where they sell memberships, but like one-on-one personal training studios, right? Like 3,000 square feet. I was like, yeah, sure. How much are you willing to pay me? And so I didn't even realize I was kind of going into the consulting industry.
Yeah.
And so I started coaching and consulting gym owners, personal training studio owners. And that went well until 2008 when the housing market crashed. And because I was doing one-on-one personal training, which was the model that I learned at LA Fitness, I was teaching them to do that. Well, one-on-one personal training ain't cheap. It's like $600 to like $1,000 a month, depending on how many times a week you're with a personal trainer. And so when the housing market crashes, all of my personal training gym owner clients start dropping off because their clients start dropping off. They start dropping off. I'm like, fuck the hell if me and my family are going to go live with my parents now, right? Like, what's my next pivot? And I saw these outdoor boot camps being run, at parks, at school playgrounds, where it's like one trainer, whole bunch of clients, group fitness programs. was like, well, maybe personal training doesn't have to be one-on-one. Maybe it can be one-on-many. And so that's the idea of Fit Body Bootcamp. That's how Fit Body Bootcamp came to be. 2 years later, we had our first Fit Body Bootcamp opened inside of a gymnastics center. And the reason it was inside of a gymnastics center is I didn't know if it was going to take off or not. So I figured if I worked in a gymnastics center, ran a class in a gymnastics center, and was able to do this in the mornings before the gymnastics center was full of students once they got out of school, if I can make this work, then I could start leasing a brick and mortar and running classes all day long. Gymnastics center worked. We did that for about 6 months. Then we started opening up our own, what later became our corporate-owned stores, right? And then we ended up franchising by 2012, and the rest was kind of history. We had our ups and downs like anything else, and COVID was a kick in the shorts for sure. We lost 218 franchise locations in 2020. Yeah.
Have you gained some of them back?
We did gain all of them back, and we're actually net positive again.
Oh,
so we're over 600 locations now nationwide. Well, Canada and U.S. We're expanding now into Australia, Europe. But, you know, the greatest personal development program that I've ever experienced, if somebody was like, is it therapy? Therapy definitely helps you heal through your traumas and your fucking wounds that you're hiding from and escaping from. But entrepreneurship, man, trying to create a business where there's other competing businesses like yours is probably the highest level of personal development you will experience, I found.
Yeah.
You get to see what you're really made of, how much risk you're willing to take, how much problems you're willing to solve, how much shit you're willing to eat and wake up and just keep going. How much are you willing to refinance your house, max out your credit cards, be willing to sell your fucking kidneys, like whatever it takes. And then you have, COVID was like the ultimate, like my test of true leadership. I always felt like in some ways I had a rabbit's foot stuck up my ass. You know, things always worked out for me. COVID really showed me that, like, I've got entrepreneurial chops. And, you know, since then we've created Keullian, the supplement company. I own equity in Fuel Hunt, this apparel company that's just blowing up right now. And so, but entrepreneurship to me has been a high level of personal growth, has been the vehicle to amassing money. Money is a vehicle to freedom for me and sovereignty. I never want to be told what to do, how to do it, when to be there. Money allows me to buy back my time, give my family and the people I love experiences, give back to the charities that are meaningful to me, like Toys for Tots, Compassion International, and Shrine of Children's Hospital. So to me, I just look at money as a tool.
Yeah.
You know, and that's really all it is. And people that have like this weird issue with money and this, like, you know, money is it's the source of all evil. It's not. It solves the problem of not having money, and that's a damn good problem to solve.
For sure. And I have discussions like that, pretty regularly. And to me, the way I tend to look at it is money magnifies who the person is.
Yes.
You know, it doesn't make you happy. It doesn't turn people into assholes. Like it just blows up and magnifies whoever you are as a person. But so from the business side, I want to get a little into the weeds, just as an entrepreneur myself. And I know a lot of the listeners are people in 9-to-5 jobs, or they're veterans that have transitioned out, or law enforcement that are looking to start their own business or what have you. And to me, there's kind of two or even multiple categories that way. There's the thinking about starting a business. There's the I just started a business, and then there's the I own a business. So maybe we'll parse it into three categories. But one of the big questions I have that you hear a lot about, and I know, over the last 15 years of doing my own thing, that it's been I wouldn't say a struggle, but something that I've thought about a lot, and at times not known what the right answer is, which is the balance thing. And to me, it at least from my path, you see some guys who are, on private jets that are worth, 8-9 figures, whatever, and they talk about, balance. And to me, like the 0 to 50 percentage mark of getting there, so to speak, which, I mean, you could argue you never get all the way there, but there kind of is. To me, it seemed like there is no balance. It's like you've got to be all in, and there's no, well, I'm taking some time. It's like, no, you got to live, breathe, eat, shit, sleep, the whole program to get to that over the cuffs. Now, once you're over there and things are kind of balanced out a little bit, then you can start to play that game. But what is your response to the people looking for the balance answer?
The balance answer for the entrepreneur is elusive. because how do you balance life when you have a baby? Like you have a newborn baby, you just left the hospital with a newborn baby. You realize now you're not about to get your 7 or 8 hours of beauty sleep because that little fucker's going to start screaming in the middle of the night, asking for milk or pooping themselves or tummy ache or whatever it is. And didn't come with the owner's manual, so I don't know exactly what the fuck is going on with that child. And so I got to figure it out, and I got to hand it to the wife, and I got to, what do I do? What's my part of it? And I remember with Andrew, my son, like I remember the first couple of months, like thinking, this is how I fucking lose my mind. I'm sitting on an exercise ball bouncing. It's the only way this kid sleeps.
Yeah.
So I guess this is how I go fucking insane, not realizing as months go by, he's going to fall asleep and stay asleep throughout the night. And so, but in those first few months when a baby's born, man, you've got no balance. It's just everything is baby. You've got bags under your eyes. People are bringing you food and like, you're just all in. That is what entrepreneurship, and I don't know if the mark is, from 0 to 50, 0 to 40, 0 to 60. I don't know where it is, but let's say 50% when you're about halfway there to your goal. Because the first thing you want to do, and I did this late, I could have done it sooner. You start having more balance when you're able to make money and buy back your time. We end up making money and going, you know what? I think I want that fancy watch. You know what? I think I've wanted a custom suit forever because I think rich people are supposed to have custom suits. So now that I made my first million, I'm going to go get a custom suit or fancy shoes. It's like, idiot, just keep rocking your jeans and chucks and t-shirt and live a modest life and go hire people, because a business breaks down to 3 things. A good product, people, processes. That's it. You show me a business that has problems and I'll isolate it to one or all 3 of the P's, and then I'll dive in there and fix it. And so if you've got a good product, then you got to hire some good people to buy back your time. So instead of, if you can delay the gratification of that fancy car or renting a jet or fucking Lamborghini or whatever, or a nice watch, hire a human, deploy some processes, buy back your time, you have a little bit more balance in life. You can spend time with the family, you can get your workouts in, you can get better sleep. But never does it become a fully balanced thing, even when you're at 100% of your goal. Like Fit Body Bootcamp is on autopilot where I'm concerned. Where Bryce, my CEO, is concerned, he's in the weeds, like I used to be 4 years ago. But it's on autopilot. Well, great. I start the next thing. But it's always a work-life mix. Like if you're going to be an entrepreneur, prepare to take balance out of your vernacular and instead understand it's a work-life mix. Because if an opportunity comes, I'm going to strike. Even if I've got a CEO in place, I've got this, I got that. Let's say, hey, Bedros, I'm going to introduce you to someone in Australia, and they're mega loaded. They're probably by 20 Fit Body Bootcamp locations. I'm like, fuck, Mike, we had no plans of going to Australia right now. We were just going to go to Europe and here and there. Well, all right, introduce me. And now I might have to go to Australia for this trip to meet this guy because you introduced them, and the family's going to have to understand. My kids are going to have to understand why dad's gone for a period of time when it was unscheduled, unplanned, and here I go. And if I have to leave from here, then that's how it's going to be. Because if the iron's hot and you're like, you got to get there now, and this is how it's going to be, shoot, I'm there. It's an opportunity. Like I realize entrepreneurship is a sport, and I play it at the very highest levels. And so I want to be really good at it, and I understand the sacrifices. And so it's a work-life mix, never balance. But if you use some of that money early on to buy back your time by bringing in people and processes, you can have some sanity back.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's a great answer. So in that same vein, if entrepreneurism is a sport, is there a point, whether it's age or monetarily, where you retire from the sport? Like, is there a point where you're not, like, no matter how good the opportunity is, you're like, it's not worth it. I'm fucking hanging out and relaxing.
I'm at a place now, thankfully, where I could say no thank you to opportunities, but I'll never retire from it. It's a sport that continues to go. There is no, and then we won. We ran the clock and then we won, right? Also, I'm not cut from the cloth of retirement. I know if I retire, like I'm going to find bottles of Vicodin and other trouble to get into, and then you'll find me dead. Yeah. Like, oh, I remember interviewing that guy on my couch. He was the first guy on the new couch. Now he's dead. So it's just, I'm fortunate enough where I'm at a place now where I can say no thank you to opportunities, whether it's speaking gigs, whether it's somebody's like, hey, let's start a new company business together. Let's buy this fucking apartment complex and blah, blah, blah. It sounds like it's too much fucking involvement of me right now. There was a time where I was like, I'm in.
Yeah.
Because I knew.
Say yes to everything.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm going to say yes because I know everything's not going to stick, and that what sticks is going to get me to that next level. But I suppose there's people that can reach a level and then retire. But then my question to them is, if you're playing a sport at such a high level, like you look at anyone out of the NFL, NBA, what do? They end up they either die off very quickly, or they need to go buy car dealerships, restaurants, whatever. They need to go to that next venture. You come from the background that you come from as a SEAL, like, type A, tightly wound, high speed, very goal driven. Like, you have to keep doing shit. You can't. You'll go nuts if you don't. It's probably not going to be battle. Like, there's younger dudes that are going to go and do that, but you have to keep doing things, serving humanity. And if you don't, you probably go inward and go to that dark place, like we all do. And that's how we end up dying. But so no, it's a sport, I suppose, kind of like jujitsu. As long as you can stay healthy, you can keep rolling. Yeah, you can keep going.
Yeah, that makes good sense. One question I had, which you kind of already answered, or I think I know the answer to, but in terms of making the rewards happen, like when you do that, because you talk about watches and cars and houses and expensive material shit that doesn't matter to a lot of people, most people even, but to some people it does. I mean, whatever your reward is there a right answer, a formula, a piece of advice you could give a young entrepreneur that's starting to become successful? Up until this point, he's put every dime back into his business, but now he's, got some surplus and he's like, man, I'd sure love to drive that, or I'd sure love to vacation here, or whatever. Yeah. To me, there is a certain point where it's like, what's the point if you never enjoy the fruits of your labor? But when is that time? Is there a right time?
Yeah. That's an easy answer, and it's a two-part answer. And it's a two-part answer because I did the first part the wrong way. So I'm going to hopefully help the younger entrepreneurs listening to this, or at least people who are newer to the entrepreneur game, but they're older in life in terms of age. I thought you've made it when you can buy yourself a Rolex, a Cartier, an Omega watch, Patek Philippe. So I've got all of them. I've got all the timepieces. When they're over $10,000, they're no longer a watch. It's a timepiece. And I've got all the timepieces, and they sit on that little fucking thing, and
watch winder,
and they do their thing. And I've got a whole bunch, Bertlings and all this stuff, because I thought that's what it took, and I thought that's how you're supposed to flash. And I went and found a tailor in Costa Mesa, and I've got 8 custom-made suits with my BK logo in the lining, all fucking badass, because I thought, like, you're supposed to be on stage in a 3-piece suit. When I was, first of all, God's blessed me with 2 things: big traps and quads and sweat glands. I sweat profusely. Bro, I don't need...
Is that a blessing?
Yeah, well,
he blessed you with that?
I think God's got a sense of humor.
Yeah.
But I sweat profusely. I don't need to be in a 3-piece suit, Mike. Yeah. I need to be like in the least amount of clothes possible on stage, because I'm already nervous when I'm on stage. I'm an introvert trying to live in an extrovert's life when I'm on stage. And I realized, this fucking sucks, man. I've got a $9,000 suit on, and I got 8 of them in my closet, and I don't want to wear them ever. But I thought, again, that's the thing. Now, do I fly private? Absolutely. Me and my team will fly private when it makes sense, right? I enjoy it. In fact, George Clooney, he's got his jet on the NetJet platform. I live in Chino Hills. The next city over is Chino Airport. 5-minute flight. All of us, the camera guys, and I'll get on the plane, Joe and my assistant, and we fly to the next destination to speak or whatever, when it makes sense. When not, I'm flying first class. So I always tell people, figure out what your value system is. Like, sovereignty and freedom to do what I want when I want, not look at I love food, so not look at the money side of the menu, like what it costs for the caviar. Like, I want 8 ounces of caviar, give it to me. I want to eat at this 3 Michelin star restaurant, I'm there. I love knowing that I can text Chef Bradley and at the Addison, and boom, I'm there. Like, those are the connections that I want. I want connections, access, sovereignty. The timepieces, I told Andrew and Chloe, my son and daughter, like, hey, these are going to be yours, because I don't even wear them. The suits, I wore them for a whole year, and I was like, I'm sweating profusely. I don't like this. And so I've got thousands of dollars sitting there on the counters, hanging in a closet. Cars, I do like cars, so I've got a little fleet of cars, and good for me. But if you know what your value system is, the next thing is, don't buy things that other people are wearing on Instagram because you think that's what the rich are supposed to wear. Buy things that align with your value system. And the next thing is, well, when do I buy it? Set yourself a goal. When I achieve this mile marker financially, and I hold it there for 3 months at least. I told this to Tony Steffen, one of my coaching clients. He's like, I really want a Lamborghini Huracan. Cool. Well, we know the best month you've done is $70,000 a month. So give yourself 3 $90,000 months back to back and buy yourself a Lamborghini Huracan. And he did, and he bought himself a bright blue Lamborghini Huracan, the Performante, which is the higher fucking model, and he enjoys that thing. But if you have a threshold, you've now created a rule. I like operating by rules, right? Like there's certain things I will do only when I'm traveling. There's certain types of, I won't eat like a fucking fatty in California because I'll be a fat pig.
Yeah.
But when I'm traveling, guess what?
Yeah.
We talked about barbecue.
Yeah.
Want barbecue, had dessert yesterday, had a nice little ice cream sundae yesterday. It was fucking delicious. It was great. But if I have that in California, like, because I'm OCD, it'll just be every day.
Yeah.
So I create rules for myself and I create rules for my coaching clients. And it's like, do this for 3 months, hit a new threshold, go buy that thing. And I call it, give yourself the millionaire experience, right? So it might be fly first class or private to this destination that you want to go vacation to when you hit your first fucking $3 million net revenue. But when it's just, hey, I'm making money, I'm going to go frivolously buy shit, at some point, the technology is going to change on social media, the algorithm, the competition is going to change, the economy is going to change, and then that money's going to stop, and you're going to be like, fuck, I wish I had more assets and I wish I had invested in other income streams instead of just going out there and thinking this faucet was going to constantly poop out money.
Yeah. Can you reduce it to a kind of a single piece of advice as far as like a singular statement as when to do that?
When you've got 12 months of money in the bank that covers your living expenses and 6 months of money in your business coffers to cover the operational costs, and then you hit a new threshold for 3 months straight, give yourself a reward with that new watch, car, whatever.
Until then, every dime goes back into the business.
Every dime, yeah. And the reason I say 12 and 6, 12 months of living expenses like gives your spouse peace of mind.
Yeah.
I'm guessing most of our listeners are male probably, and most entrepreneurs, just statistically speaking, are male. We are higher risk takers. The women in our lives want that peace of mind that we're not going to lose the nest, right? And so 12 months of oh shit money, that if everything goes wrong, we can live for 12 months in this house with our current lifestyle, pay our bills, etc. And then 6 months of operational money. So Fit Body Bootcamp, we had 6 months of operational money. Of course, the pandemic lasted more than 6 months. So guess what? I sold a few of my rental properties that I have because the PPP money went like this. The EDI loan the government gave went away like this. So we emptied our coffers. After 6 months, the pandemic still continued. We kept losing franchise locations. And so I sold 2 of my rental properties and funded my business, right? And so that's why I say have 6 months of money in the operational coffers of the company. Because as an entrepreneur, if you can't fix the problem within 6 months, you probably don't deserve to be an entrepreneur, or that industry is now shot.
Yeah.
Right? And in my case, 6 months wasn't enough. I didn't want to lay off employees because I knew that this is just a finite window. We're going to hockey stick again once the world opens up, and I always maintain hope that it would. So I sold my rental properties. The alternative was private equity was circling, man. They're like fucking crows circling dead meat. Mm-hmm. They were offering us pennies on the dollar to buy into Fit Body Bootcamp, and we needed that money. And I didn't want to sell those rental properties, but I was like, if I sell my company, 60% of my company to them now for the money I need, I'm going to regret it a year from now, a year and a half from now. So I'd rather sell my 2 rental properties, which is what I did.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I love the point about not being, if you can't fix those problems, I mean, that's the name of the game. Like, you're a problem solver. And,
that's it.
And there's always going to be things that come up. Don't ever get too comfortable, right?
Right.
Is there a couple of things or a few things that people starting out that they screw up? You know, what are the biggest mistakes people make when they say, you know what, I want to start my own business?
Most people, they want to start their own business because they don't like how things went at their work. They got passed up for a raise, a title increase, an opportunity they got overlooked on. I believe 93% of people, and that's because the statistics that say 97% of businesses make enough money to actually give the founder a living wage. And so if we know there's like a 7% real success rate in business, that means 93% should not even be in business. Like, if you're going to be in business because like I fucking hate my boss, I hate owning a job. Listen, I remember times thinking like, I sure could use a 401k right now. I sure could use like a couple days off. Like, there was stretches that I went with like no days off. I'm talking months. I remember like going to the gym and then cracking my windows in my car and just falling asleep in the parking lot. Like I use my workout time to take a little nap in the car. Like those are things that most people don't want to do, and don't have the chops for it. I do. I knew what I was meant for. And so for most people, it's really assess, do you want to be an entrepreneur? For most, the answer is probably going to be no. It's just glorified right now on social media, and that's why I believe most people want that. You can probably make more money working a good career and having a side hustle. A lot of side hustle shit people can do now, selling stuff on Etsy, eBay, doing cool shit and making money on the side. Hell, even driving Uber or fucking Grubhub or all that stuff, and still maintaining a good life. But if you decide you do want to be an entrepreneur, know this, you have to solve problems in exchange for money. So make sure that you're solving problems that the masses have, and you better make sure that the problems that you're looking to solve for those masses, that those people have money. So if you're like, hey, all these high school students have these problems, great, high school students are broke and you can't find them. So you better make sure that it's problems that you're solving for the masses, and the masses better have access to money. Like if a high school student has to go ask their mom and dad for money to buy from you, you're one more person away removed from getting the money. Bad business idea. Don't do it, right? And so solve problems in exchange for money. The more complex the problems that you can solve, the more you can differentiate yourself. The more you differentiate yourself, the more money you can make and the less competition you will have. Do what I didn't do, which is get an assistant, get people, create processes faster. I was of the mindset that the less people I hire, the more money I can keep and upgrade my lifestyle instead. And I bought shit that I didn't need, from cars to watches to suits. In fact, there's a story in my book, Man Up, where I sold my first supercar, Nissan GTR, 2011 Nissan GTR. I sold it for $20,000 under market because quarterly taxes and payroll lined up in the same month. We didn't have it. I had to sell that car. I bought it in 2011. I sold it in 2012. Like, what a shame. What a shame. Today, I just buy everything outright because I can. And so, get people and processes in there sooner. I should have hired an assistant sooner. I should have hired a team sooner, even if they're people that you're outsourcing to, graphic designers. Just because you can edit a video on Instagram or there's apps doesn't mean you should be doing a $12 an hour job trying to make 7 figures or 8 figures. Those dots will never connect. Hire someone from Poland, from Turkey, from Bangladesh to do that work for you. You can go to Upwork, or you can go to Fiverr, or you can hire someone local and create processes. But people and processes as soon as possible. Solve problems in exchange for money. The more complex problems you solve, the more money that you make. And that's the formula for entrepreneurship.
Yeah. It's great, great stuff for sure. Do you have a favorite car that you've had?
That I've had?
Or that you haven't had, but I mean,
yeah,
you seem like the guy if you
70,
want something.
yeah, 1970 Chevelle that I had, that I recently sold. Rolls-Royce Phantom that I had, and I always been a believer of. I'm a little bougie sometimes. It's funny that this immigrant is a little bougie. I believe that you should be driven in a Rolls Royce and not drive a Rolls Royce.
Yeah.
And so when I got a driver, Hugo, I was like, hey, Hugo, I'm going to buy a Rolls Royce, and you're going to drive me around in it. And I enjoyed it. And then I was like, okay, I'm done. Back to the Cadillac Escalade that he has. And so
yeah,
it was a nice little stint. But those were probably the two funnest cars in terms of like, one was just, I mean, you're getting sick under a red light, the 70 Chevelle, you're getting, like all the fumes, but everyone knew exactly what Oh, and I had a replica 64, factory 5 replica 64 Shelby Cobra.
Oh, wow.
That everyone gave me thumbs up for. Yeah.
Yeah.
The rest are all just modern, like little supercars or different trucks and shit.
Yeah. More of the Euro exotics.
No, I actually like America. So I've got I bought, speaking of a Huracan, I bought a Huracan, had it for 6 months, got rid of it. I just couldn't fit into it. I'm actually looking for a Porsche GT3 now to see if I can fit into it. I've got a pretty wide back, and so those Recaro seats I can't fit into. I've got a new Nissan GTR that I drive, but I drive it long distance and my back hurts. I've got a 2023 Dodge Challenger Red Eye Super Stock, last call. Very limited quantity made, like under 300 made. It's got the last call badge. I really love that car. It's like just 807 horsepower, all to the rear wheel, unforgiving. super fun car to drive and actually fit into the seats really well. But my favorite vehicle of all right now that I have is this Ram TRX that I've souped up to 1,000 horsepower. At 49, I want comfort.
Yeah.
It's got thick glass, and so I can only hear the exhaust when I roll down the window. So it's comfortable. It's super fast. It's a truck.
Yeah.
And I'm usually tooling around in that most of the time.
So many things don't make sense about that truck, yet at the same time manage to work.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like the Bumblebee. How is this thing flying?
Yeah. All right. One back to some of the business stuff. In terms of social media, and especially for people starting out, it seems easy and I think common for most people to try to leverage social media as their primary way to grow. To me, it's a mistake to put all of your eggs in that basket. But what is your kind of both advice and principled theory as to how to grow businesses without relying solely on social media content?
Good question. It's a 50-50 formula of content and collaboration. And I think that collaboration piece is where everybody misses out on, because there's room for rejection. When Gabrielle introduced us, Mike, you could have said, no, thank you. I'll take a pass on Bedros. Wouldn't have hurt my feelings. Cool, man. Like, you know the integrity of your show. You know whether I'd make a good guest or not. No worries. But I could post as much content as I want across like my TikTok, my Instagram, my Facebook, my YouTube, etc. However number following I have is who's going to see my shit. Hoping one or two pop off every now and again, and it goes viral and new people see it. That is unpredictable. I want predictability when I create a business. Hell, I want predictability everywhere in my life, right? Like, I got a backpack full of food because after here, we're going to Hani Rambad's gym to work out and do his podcast and meet some pro bodybuilder, et cetera. And I don't know how long I'm going to be gone, but I know I need protein, I need water, and so I'm prepared. And so, but I want predictability in my life. And so social media, just when you're putting up content, is unpredictable because it's up to the algorithm. It's up to the people who like and comment to determine whether it's going to go viral or not. And if it does, is it even going to convert into money? Or did you just get 15,000 new followers, but it didn't really convert into money, which you can't take followers to the bank. This is where the collaboration comes in handy. OPP, other people's platforms, stages, podcasts, YouTube shows. Can you collaborate with people who already have your future customers, right? Like, when I share the sizzle reel of this episode that comes out, my 1 million followers on Instagram are going to be like, oh, shoot, B was on Mike Ritland's show. And some of those people are going to be like, I've never heard of Mike Ritland. Just like some people on your show are going to be like, I've never heard of Bedros. Let me look him up. He seems pretty interesting. You might get new followers. I might get new followers. You might get new customers. I might get new customers out of it. That's collaboration piece. But there's a high chance of rejection. And so people don't do that second part. They just do the content piece, and so their business is unpredictable. The collaboration part is find platforms and people who are willing to give you, and you have to be a good orator, good storyteller, add value. Like, if you can't do all that shit, you don't deserve, I don't deserve to be on this show if I can't add value to your audience and if I can't bring eyeballs to it, right? And so if I've got 10,000 followers, Gabrielle's like, hey, do you want this introduction to Mike Ritland? No. Give that introduction a year from now. And I've done that before. And you have to be willing to do that because you've got to be equally yoked. If I can't bring equal amount of eyeballs to you as you are about to bring to me, I don't deserve this game. That's how entrepreneurship should work. So content collaboration, the collaboration piece makes it predictable because then we're talking about my book, we're talking about Fit Body Bootcamp, we're talking about coaching business that I have. Somebody might be like, I want this knucklehead to coach me. Somebody might, you know what, maybe I want to open up a Fit Body Bootcamp. Maybe I should read his book. Whatever it is, they might end up getting value from me and might end up doing business with me. And if I can get on 200 podcasts this year, and if I can get on 30 stages, then maybe I've added enough value where I can build my business. And then that third component is to buy traffic. Like, find out who your audience avatar is, and can you buy paid ads? Google, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, those 3 platforms, very rarely LinkedIn. But those 4 platforms, buy traffic and convert it. And you're looking for at least a 2.5 ROAS, return on ad spend, when you're buying traffic. If you don't get at least a 2.5, you're not making money. People think like, Well, I got a 1.0, so at least I broke even. No, you didn't, because there's operational cost that you didn't account for. Even 2.0, making twice your money back. For every dollar you spend, you make $2 back. You're still not making money. At 2.5, you're breaking even. Beyond 2.5, you're profitable.
Yeah, that's great advice for sure. In terms of, I guess, for your experience specifically with Fit Body Bootcamp and any other products, for you, is it as simple as, from a marketing standpoint, both on social media, Google Ads, even hard print, if you do that, is it a formula of, if we spend X, our conversion is this, and we're going to make that, and you just scale it from there?
Yeah,
it's all just that simple.
It's all formulaic.
Yeah. And so, from an advisory standpoint, when you evaluate other people's businesses and try to help them if they're fledgling or they just want to get to that next level, is that really the heart of what you're doing? Is saying, okay, what's working, what's not? That's working, magnify it, and it's that simple.
Normally, we'll do a little exercise called Kill Your Darlings, and I got that from Stephen King, the author. He wrote, so while he writes all these great novels, he wrote one book on how to write a book. And since I'm like, fuck, I'm an author, now that I'm writing Man Up, I don't know how to write a book. I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm supposed to write a good book. Let me buy his book. In his book, he talks about killing your darlings, meaning, and he says, kill the words, sentences, and paragraphs that the reader is not going to get value from. And so if you can take a 70,000 word book and reduce it down to a 55,000 word book, and the reader still gets the value, you're more likely to make sure the reader finishes the book and gets the value from it. So I adopted that to business. I'm like, all right, let's talk about your business. Well, what did you do? Well, I created this and it was working fine, but then I figured I can make more money if I do this, and I created this and I created this. And you look, and the Pareto principle takes place, the 80-20 rule. Pareto principle says that 80% of your money or your results will come from 20% of the effort. So we'll go killing the darlings. When I took equity in Fuel Hunt, this apparel company, they just created new logos and put them out. Created a new logo, put them out. Well, think about it. 3 different shirt colors, black, white, some kind of gray. Then you think of 4 different sizes, small, medium, large, extra large. And then you hope that that logo took off or that saying took off. I was like, guys, how many SKUs do we have, actually? They're like several hundred. I'm like, holy fuck. What are the top 10? They go, ba, 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 ba. Great. Let's kill all the other darlings. We killed $80,000 worth of darlings, right? So I do this with businesses as well. I do it with my own business. The Truly supplements that I sent you, the wellness shots, we had fish oils, we had multivitamins, we had a Sleep Well product. Bro, like, I don't want to compete with fish oils. There's a million fish oils out there. I don't want to compete with multivitamins. You can go buy Centrum for 12 cents at CVS Pharmacy. Like, people are too dumb to know the difference between quality vitamins and multivitamins or not. I want something unique and different, like my wellness shot, like our greens. And so we killed those 3 darlings, and we ended up making a lot more money and being able to buy the other product at such a large amount that per unit cost went down. And so I'm always taking coaching clients and I'm saying, all right, what are the darlings that you have? Well, they go, I don't know what darlings are. I explain to them the things that we can get rid of. All right, I go, well, tell me the things that, it's probably 20% of the things you do that make 80% of the money. You go, yeah, this business and that business, or that product and this product. Great. Let's get rid of this, that, and the other. Oh my God, are you sure? I simplify people's businesses. As humans, we want to complicate shit for some reason. The human brain is designed to complicate shit. We complicate things, and then we go, I don't understand why I'm stressed out, overworked, the wife wants a divorce. It's because you overcomplicated, and now you're in debt, you're trying to spin too many plates on these sticks, and you can't. Get rid of the 80% that don't matter, keep the 20%, and then really figure out who has your future customers, get them to expose your product or service to their audience, and then create a predictable process of that where, you know, for every dollar I spent, I get minimum 2.5 back. The rest is easy peasy lemon squeezy.
Yeah, that's great. Do you, is coaching and business assistance primarily what you do now with your free time?
Yeah, these days it's all I do.
Yeah.
And the reason is I don't want to start in, like, remember you were like, hey, you know, are you at a place where you can say no to things? I'm in a place where I don't want to start new companies anymore.
Yeah.
It's a grind to start something from scratch.
Sure. Yeah.
But if these 2 cousins have started Fuel Hunt, and I wear their gear anyway, and I always ask myself, do I have the audience to promote it? Yes, I do. Do I like and use the product? Yes, I do. And then do I like the people who actually I'm about to partner with? Yes, I do. If those 3 things align, I'm going into business with you.
Yeah.
So my coaching business now, I charge $100,000 for a year of coaching, and the outcome is 3 to 5x in results. And we call it domination year because the whole idea is we're going to time collapse about 3 to 5 years of results into 1 year. But in that $100,000 that they pay me, they're auditioning whether I want to be a business partner or not. Now, they don't know that. Well, now they do because I'm talking about it, right?
Kind of like your backpack.
Right, exactly. So they're paying me $100,000. If you look at it this way, they're paying me $100,000 to audition, and I'm helping them regardless. But if they want a year 2, I might say, hey, before you pay me $100,000 for year 2, I like your product. I've seen you through 4 seasons of life. You seem like a pretty stable human being. I like you as a human, and I've got the audience to promote your shit. So instead of paying me $100,000, what if you give me 10, 15, 20% equity in the company, and then you give me X percentage of gross revenue on a monthly basis off the top? I become a partner, and we have a 5-year exit plan. So now you have about just over a dozen companies that I've taken equity in using that coaching model where we're driving them towards an exit.
So you're essentially your own Shark Tank.
Yes.
Yeah, that's awesome. In terms of investing back into yourself versus diversifying, would you apply the same thought process of the 12 and 6? Are you dumping everything back into your own business before you're going to say, I'm going to invest in that or this or gold or whatever? Is there a threshold for that?
Yeah, I'm always investing in my businesses first, and then into the equity businesses that I've taken equity in, because I have the most amount of control over my businesses. Like Mike Ritland knows what Mike Ritland's going to do tomorrow. So you should invest most of your money into Mike Ritland. You don't know if Elon is going to, like Tesla's kicking ass, SpaceX is kicking ass, but if Elon decides to catch a bullet or something, God forbid, right?
Or do a line on Rogan's podcast.
Yeah, we saw what happened when he smoked a joint, right? Didn't Tesla stock fall down for a while?
Yeah, it tanked for I don't know how long. But
and so like I love Elon, but I've invested in Tesla, but
he's a wild card.
Yeah, he's a wild card. Everyone is. Yeah. Everyone is. Like to you, I'm a wild card. To me, you're a wild card. And so my company's first, the companies that I've taken equity in second, and then I'll go high risk for me is crypto. And then there's real estate on the lowest risk. So high risk crypto, lowest risk real estate. And then in the middle, there's stocks.
Yeah. But is there a value or a point at which you say, okay, I've put enough into my own businesses, my equity businesses, now I'm going to put it somewhere else? Like at what point do you say, okay, I've put enough into those?
When they're self-sustaining, when they're generating profits and they're giving you profits and you're taking shareholder distribution.
You still have extra.
You still have extra. You better start buying real estate. You better start buying crypto. You better start buying the things that can appreciate in value.
Yeah. Okay. In your consulting business, the 1 year 3 to 5x, is that like a guarantee, or that's just what you're saying you think you can do?
That's most of the time what I can do for them. And, we interview them thoroughly before we take their $100,000. And if they don't hit it, 99% of the time it's because it's a people issue and not a process issue.
Yeah.
Like
if it's a people issue and they're not willing to address it.
They're not willing to address it. They took the game plan from their half day and they went and zigged instead of zagged, right? Then it's like, hey, here's your $100,000 back. Because you'll never find bad reputation on me anywhere on the internet, or you'll never meet someone that goes, Bedros took my money and didn't deliver.
Yeah.
So twice out of like 200 coaching clients that I've coached at that price point, I've had to issue a refund because it's like, you're not going to do the work and then you're going to end up blaming me, shitting on me.
Yeah. That's a good process. Do you do anything outside of that, or is it kind of that's?
I recently started a lower level coaching program called Legacy Tribe.
Yeah.
Think of it as a group coaching program. It's $297 a month.
Why such a specific amount? Is there psychology behind that?
No, it's like under $10.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was like, if I can keep it under $10, like a trip to Starbucks, I think most people would be able to pay that. Yeah. I guess so. That's the psychology behind it. And I figured if like you want coaching from me and you're like, I wish I could afford your domination in your program, but I can't. I always have to remind people, I put 2 episodes out every week where I'm teaching at a very high level, either entrepreneurship or personal growth. And that costs you nothing. You just have to apply it. I'm putting posts up on social media. It costs you nothing. You just have to apply it. I have live events that don't cost you $100,000, cost you anywhere from a few $100 to maybe $5,000 if you want like VIP seating. But so I created this Legacy Tribe coaching program. That's the business that Jason Redman is my business partner in. Yeah. We've got about 400 members in it. Our goal is to grow it to over 5,000 members. And it's all done via Zoom. Live training every Wednesday via Zoom on a topic, which is pretty cool. And then they can ask questions. So there is some like problem solving specifically for the individuals. Yeah. But it's nothing like the domination year where I'm like,
in your ass.
Yeah, I'm attached to them at the hip for a year.
Yeah, I gotcha. That's good. Is there anything that you're worried about?
I'm worried about our country.
Yeah.
I'm worried about this great country. I asked my dad, so my dad's 87 years old now. I asked my dad 2 weeks ago, would you come back? He goes, I would probably find a European country to go to this time around. Yeah, and
That's
it breaks my heart.
heartbreaking. Yeah.
And I'm worried about our country because we have allowed the opposition to slowly encroach on our rights. They've gotten smart. It's not a all-out D-Day attack. It's not the attack on Pearl Harbor. Like, we're used to thinking of attacks that way. Like, oh my God, we're under attack, we're under invasion, and so let's do something about it. It's a slow encroachment, slow erosion of our rights, of our freedoms, of our ability to think and problem solve, and our constitutional rights. And that's scary because they take, and you go, hey, enough, and they stop. They don't go back. And then they start encroaching and encroaching and encroaching. Now you find yourself like in the corner, like, don't take one more step. They go, or else what? We've taken the room, right, over decades. And that's what's been happening. That's my biggest concern. And I think it was Ronald Reagan that said, and if I'm wrong, then somebody will correct me in the comments, but that we're just one generation away from losing our country. And so something happened, man, in the last decade where we stopped educating the upcoming generation of what the United States is. Like, it feels so good, man. Driving around here in Texas, I've been all over the last 2 days. U.S. flags everywhere, Mike, everywhere. And you travel enough to see that it's not like that in other states.
I mean, I don't go to California anymore almost. I mean, it's rare that I'll go there.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know how you live there, honestly, other than maybe just because you grew up there and it's.
I grew up there, and I hate saying it this way, but when you make a lot of money in California, you can live in California like it's Texas or Florida.
Yeah.
But I realize I'm the exception and not the rule. I could drive 30 miles. I'll probably see one flag, like somewhere on a car dealership, you know, a U.S. flag in California.
And there'd be 10 free Palestine flags.
Right.
You know.
Or Ukraine flags or whatever. And it just breaks my heart, man, because we've lost that patriotism, and I don't understand why. And I know what this country has done for me, and I believe the American dream is still alive and well. In fact, the threshold for the American dream, Mike, is lower than ever. Like, if someone's got an idea for anything, like, you've got this phone that you can use to create how-to content, and then you can post it up on a free social media platform. You can take money using PayPal by just giving them 2.5% of the money that you take. You can use WordPress to make a free website to talk about what your product is. Like, the barrier to entry is lower than ever. You don't have to go to China, find a manufacturer. You can have people make one off of your product and sell it on Etsy. If you have a service, like you're a fitness coach, fat loss coach, a mindset coach, a nutrition coach, you want to teach people how to shoot, you can write an ebook and sell it and just teach how-to things on YouTube and Instagram, and then have them buy your $49 course, and you can sell hundreds of those a month. People think the American dream is dead. People think that we've become the opposition. The American dream is like America is the great oppressor. It is not. Like, is there things to fix? Absolutely, man. Absolutely. But when I saw, and I don't watch the NFL, but I watched some highlight at the gym that I was working out, and I saw in the end zone, stop racism. Like, come on, racism is an all-time low. To write stop racism is to remind everybody that racism is alive and well. It's at the highest that it's ever been, and it literally creates more drama and more static, more combativeness between people. Like, really, we should have wrote stop racism in the 60s on the end zone, 70s.
Yeah. Well, and I think also the broader point is, if somebody's racist and they see that, they're not going to be like, oh, well, fuck, okay, yeah, I guess I'll stop doing that. Like, that's not like,
what was I thinking?
Yeah, that's not going to do anything. Yeah, I agree. Like,
it's just bullshit propaganda, and so I worry for this country. But I also realize how resilient we are, and I realize how we've had, as a nation, our back against the wall before. But I also realize, like, our kids, the young men growing up, have never been as soft and as emotionally fragile than they are today.
Yeah.
That's the part that worries me.
Yeah. Well, and we talked a little bit about that before we started recording, and the fathers and their responsibilities to raising sons. And I would even paint it with a broader brush. I think just the nuclear family as a whole is so degraded to the point where I think that's really the broken backbone that this country for centuries has relied on, that now it can't anymore.
Right.
Because I do think both parents play a huge role, and even dads raising sons to not be little dipshits is crucial. But I also think as a father of 2 daughters, setting an example for your daughters to say that that's what a man is equally as important, because if their selectivity is such that their bar of what has been said at home is so fucking low, they're not gonna, from a mating standpoint, I don't mean to reduce it to such an animalistic or primal kind of instinct, but that's the reality, is that women set the bar for what a man needs to be, because men are going to adapt to whatever it is that women decide that's what I want. Like, men are going to become that.
Right.
You know, and so if the bar for a woman at home is fucking nothing, you know, then guys don't need to be anything.
No, we will only ascend to the level to attract a woman.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. I mean, the simple reduction is you'll ascend to whatever level is going to get you laid, you know, and it's really that simple, you know. But unfortunately, that fracture in the nuclear family has been so significant over the last couple of decades that, like, I look around and I'm like, man, even here in Texas, while yes, it's way better than I'd say most other states, there's still, you know, it's gone downhill here too, you know, and it's frightening. I also think public schools are a huge role in why it's so broken. Mm-hmm. I would ask you, how do you fix that?
I think we fix that by, so earlier we were talking about Napoleon Hill's book, Outwitting the Devil. The book was written in 1934. It got published in 2011.
Wow.
His book that we all know is How to Win Friends. No, that's Carnegie. Napoleon Hill wrote, his more popular book is not Outwitting the Devil. It is another book that I'm sure, like, people listening to this are screaming right now.
How do you not know that?
Yeah.
People in the comments like to scream everything. But
so Outwitting the Devil was written in 1934. And so his other book became more popular because his wife was like, dude, do not publish this book. This will have us, like, outcasted from our church, from our community. And so then the wife dies and the kids die, and he had put in his will that I want my estate to publish this once we're all gone. Right? So in 2011,
wow,
a book that was written in 1934 finally gets published, and it is more relevant today in 2024 than ever before. And he talks about the opposition being the school system, television and media, and you can call it social media because there was no social media back then, churches, all of the things that worked together that we as parents were like, oh, school system's got to be okay. Teachers want the best for our kids. Here, you teach my kid what they need to know. Churches, you teach my kid what they need to know. Television, you teach my kid. And so the wholesomeness is gone now. There is no wholesome training of that. You know, we talked about how men will ascend to the level of getting the pussy. Basically, that's it, to the level that they need to get laid. Well, and this is why women don't realize how powerful they are. Yet it's this Me Too movement. And it's like, you are so powerful that if you stop giving your shit away everywhere and stop amassing a body count and stop trying to, like, being okay and opening up your legs for every fucking floppy, pasty dude who's trying to stick his dick in you, then every one of these guys were trying to send and get lean and be able to string up fucking words and sentences and paragraphs together that would actually, you know, have some charisma and be able to get your interest. And you're like, fuck, okay. Because guys will do whatever it takes to get there. And so, but we have gone away from that. It's like, oh, well, hey, you have a heartbeat, go ahead, let it rip. And before you know it, they amass a body count. Before you know it, the school system decides that we're going to teach them things that are not invalued with what mom and dad want. Same, the church has gotten so weak. I can't imagine Jesus coming to any big mega church today and going like, this is what I had planned for that.
Yeah,
like, it can't be. That can't be the case. And then, of course, you look at how television media, social media, mainstream news has been the mouthpiece, both sides, left and right, for the government, for the opposition. And they're funded and greased up by the military-industrial complex, by the pharmaceutical complex organizations, and by the food organizations, companies, corporate companies who are literally taking the most processed, poisoned food and allowing it to say heart healthy on it and keeping everybody dumb and dependent and dopey and sick. And then the pharmaceutical company comes and says, here, take this, and that'll make you get better, right? And so how do we fix that? We have to go, wait a minute, this is my child. How about I start vetting out what the education system is like and stop making the excuses, well, I can't afford private school like you can. Find a way. Find a way. I did.
Yeah.
Find a way.
Yeah. I mean, there's
homeschool them.
Yeah.
Like, find a way.
Yeah. I mean, especially the homeschool thing now with the internet and all of these different curriculums that you can even say, hey, I want it to lean towards this, whatever this is. I mean, whether it's politics, religion, science, I mean, whatever your emphasis is on, there are a million accredited curriculums that are way better than what they're learning in public school.
Absolutely. What they're learning right now is an agenda at public school. What they're learning right now on social media, on television, through movies and sitcoms is an agenda. It is the tearing down of men. Every man in every show and every movie is just a dopey guy who can't get his ass from his head, who could barely tie his shoes. And like, that's what we're learning that men are. And it's unfortunate because then we have this thing called the Project that I run with Ray, 75-hour men's personal development experience, and 75 hours straight. And every time we run that and we post pictures of the graduates, like, all these women slide into my DMs and like, any of these guys single? We want like strong masculine men who are like, modern day knights, et cetera. It's like, well, fuck, are you sure? Because you sure want to wear the fucking pants. You sure want to treat him like a fucking baby. You sure want to treat him like your boy and not a man. But part of the problem is these men, like, again, they become so soft and fragile and so emotional that they don't know how to manage themselves. And so they carry themselves asking for permission from their wives and their girlfriends. Like that, it's all gotten ass backwards. And I think the pendulum has swung so far one way. There is a way to fix it, and it's the generation that's coming up, which also speaks to that saying that, bad times create hard men create good times create weak men create bad times, right? And we're somewhere in that cycle where we've just created such weak men because we've had such good times that these bad times that are just around the corner are going to force the pendulum to swing the other way into like good, hard men.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, I have an additional or alternate theory, and I'm not saying that
I'd love to hear it.
I'm the guy that came up with this. I'm sure there are other people who have talked about it, but in thinking and how powerful food is and drugs, right? You think and environmental products, those three things combined, I think, are also a huge contributing factor to the emasculation of men and kind of low testosterone and mental fragility, et cetera. But there's another component that I never hear get talked about. But if you look at the correlation in societies who have exercised it at a high level versus those who haven't, and you look at those societies and where they're at in terms of traditional gender roles, et cetera, is birth control, right? Is that if you look at when birth control kind of exploded onto the population in the United States, is that's also a pretty strong correlation or parallel of when the emasculation of men started and has only gotten worse and worse. And I think. And then if you think about how powerful a synthetic man-made chemical has to be to stop a woman's most important and natural process from being able to take place, there has to be a ton of other shit hormonally going on that's completely fucking shuffling the deck there, right? And so when you look at, again, those correlations of look at where our society is, of what a man is and what the standard needs to be for a woman to say, yeah, I want to procreate with that guy, and look at what the preferences are, what the standards are, and what that whole societal shift is to this is what we as women, predominantly speaking, want in a man, and how fucked up it is compared to what it was 50 years ago. Now you look at any other societies where birth control isn't popular, and what is it still like? It's like America in the 1950s. And I'm not saying America in the 50s was perfect, so don't go down that fucking road. I'm talking specifically to the way a nuclear family was organized and the prioritization of how kids were raised, generally speaking, was far superior back then to what it is now. But places in the Middle East, places in the Far East, places in Indonesia, places that are far more traditional that don't have a high emphasis on birth control and women becoming very, very different than what they were hormonally. And I think that has to play a huge role.
From my understanding, I just want to understand it better, because I think we're on the same page here. Are you saying that what's in the birth control pills is causing women to lower standards or to shift standards or expectations?
Yeah, because
it's degenerating humanity because of that.
Absolutely. And primarily just because of the hormone. You think about how important hormones are.
Sure.
in people, on every spectrum, whether it's performance, whether it's mental health, you name it. And if you're taking something that hormonally imbalances you to a point where you can't create a child, think about that. Like I think that's something, and I'm not against birth control necessarily at its, not from a fundamental standpoint. The problem I have with it is what it's doing to people. I'm all for not having kids if you don't want to have them and whatever like that. Like I'm not anti anything as far as that goes. But I think, and again, this is just my thoughts, but I don't know how that couldn't be playing a huge role. And also when you look at kind of the empirical data, which maybe is not that empirical, it's more anecdotal, and it's just me thinking about, different regions of the world, but look at how they are versus the ones who prioritize birth control as a staple mechanism in young girls growing up and being sold as, oh, it'll help you with your acne, it'll make your periods less painful.
Right.
That's a pretty significant fucking thing to take, and it just gets thrown out there like, oh, so yeah, you got some zits here, take some fucking birth control. It's like, do you not stop and think about how big of a fucking deal that is? If the male equivalent, like if you could take a pill that made you sterile, think about what the other processes are that it's doing to you. That it's not negligible, Yeah. And I don't think anybody really talks about that.
Yeah, I think you've got a point there.
Anyway,
I'd be curious if there's research on this.
Yeah, I hope there is, or fuck, there should be. As we kind of wrap up, I guess, what is AI something that worries you? You're excited about? Some of both? Where do you think it plays a role?
I'm middle of the road on AI. I think we're a far greater danger to ourselves than AI ever will be. That's just how it is. I would never think that AI is going to come alive and kill us or take over things. I think it could be used for hacking. I'm sure it could be used for evil, like anything else. And it's just the newest thing that people want to freak out over. Because guess what? If I could freak out over the newest thing out there, then I could avoid the problems that are in my life that I could truly fix.
Yeah.
And that's what people want to do. They want politics to be an escape. They want AI to be an escape. They want Palestine and Israel to be an escape, Ukraine and Russia to be an escape, because we have a lot more control of the shit that's in your life. Like eat right, work out, get your sleep, say your pleases and thank yous, open your doors, kiss her good morning and send her fun little text messages and all this fucking shit that you can control that could make your life so much better. Like stop scrolling and screen sucking on social media and go get that side gig or start that side weekend gig that you can be an entrepreneur and have a career at the same time and make more money for your family. But instead it's easier to, hand-wring over AI, Palestine, and whatever's happening in the world because it's an escape for people.
Yeah. Well, I think, governments have taught us, if you have the ability to fearmonger somebody into handing over A, power, and B, rights, like they can do whatever they want,
right.
And AI is a beautiful mechanism for that, I think.
Oh, amazing.
What have I not asked you that I should have, business or otherwise?
I think, kind of dovetailing into what we just talked about here is what I would love for you to ask is what is the thing that controls people's outcome in life, for their own personal life the most? And I think it's worth touching on and talking about. And I've talked about this before, but I've never really gone at length on it. And I believe when we're born as kids, we have to be codependent on our parents. We have to be dependent on our parents. They decide what little baby Mikey's going to wear. And, if you start 9 months, 10 months old, you start stumbling around and you bump your head. They go, oh, he's clumsy. And so then they start labeling him clumsy, or me, oh, he's just, he's always going to be chunky and fat because they fed me fatty foods and I got fat. And they said he's just, and so you grow up and you were always chunky. You're not meant to be athletic, and you've always been clumsy, and red's your favorite color. No, motherfucker, red's my favorite color because you put me in red clothes, and there's millions of pictures of that, right? And then whatever life experience that mom and dad had, they transfer that onto you, right? They project their life experiences on you. Watch out, be careful, don't do that. They might backstab you. Are you sure you want to take that risk? Or what if you do and everything doesn't work out? And they got grandparents and aunts and uncles and school teachers, and it's supposed to be that way. And add to that, I can go buy a microwave or a fridge or a flat screen TV. It comes in the fucking owner's manual, Mike, how do I turn this fucking thing on? How can I set the setting on this microwave? Oh, go to page 7. Here's how I set the setting. I didn't come with an owner's manual, and I don't think you did or anyone in this room did. And so we don't come with an owner's manual. Our parents and the people around us who are raising us, feeding us, they project these thoughts, feelings, emotions, how we're supposed to be. These, oh, you're not that smart, Bedros. You've always been clumsy. You've always been fat. And then we grow up telling ourselves those stories. We believe these stories, and these stories end up being our false identity. And that false identity, you go and look for evidence for in life to justify it. Like, oh, see, he looked at me in a weird way. That's right, I'm a foreigner and people don't like foreigners. It's like, no, maybe he was just staring past me, but I'm going to interpret that as he looked at me in a weird way because my mom and dad said, foreigners and immigrants don't get a fair shake at life in this country. Then I'm going to grow up with a chip on my shoulder and I'm going to look for evidence to reinforce how I feel. And so it's almost like when you're born, you've got this book of life. And people start writing in it. Bedros is clumsy, he's got slow metabolism, he's chunky, he's not that smart, and his favorite color is this, and he shouldn't take risks, and that and the other. And you grow up believing all that. And at some point we forget that, like, fuck, man, I'm 18, 19, 20, 21 years old. I could take that pen back and start writing in the empty pages that exist, decades of how the story goes from here. Like, what I'm into, what I'm not like, that I can be a runner, that I can also lift weights, and I can be a thinker, and I can problem solve, and I will stop emotionally reacting, and will start responding to situations. I will say please and thank you, and I know right from wrong, and I will focus on adding to my Goodwill bank account instead of to my karmic bank account. Like, there's pages left in our book of life that we forget to take the pen back. Instead, we go, well, this is how I've always been, and this is how I guess life must always be for me. And we live this muted, uneventful life, when in reality it's like such a joy to take the pen back and start writing this beautiful story of what you can be, whether you were sexually abused like me, mentally, physically abused, you come from a third world country like I did, or you were born in a place and you lived in a trailer park, and you've now, like, most people die within 5 miles of where they were born. Like, talk about it, like believing the story so much that they stay and they die 5 miles within where they were born, man. I think more people ought to consider taking the pen back and rewriting the story of how this story goes and how the story ends, and they could be the main character in that book, in that movie. And not enough people realize that.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've never thought of it that way, but I couldn't agree more. I mean, it I think highlights the lack of that mentality, and so many people today, especially late teens, early 20s, kids coming into their own, that victim mentality.
Yeah.
So I would ask you in kind of that same vein, maybe trying to, again, work through your therapist mind, but, for the person out there, irrespective of sex or age, that feels like they're a victim. And even though they want to get past that mentality, they know they should, they know it's in the past, they know they can't do anything about anything in the rearview mirror, they don't want to let it affect them, but they can't help it they just can't seem to get over that hurdle. What would you tell them?
Well, I would tell them, great, you're a victim. Now what? So am I. So were you. I mean, you're a victim of a lot of things. We're victims of lots of things. This is the human condition, as Joseph Campbell says. All of life is chaos with brief moments of bliss. And all of life is chaos. Like, all of a sudden, my mom had dementia, Alzheimer's, hospice, dead. September 23rd. Boom. There it goes. Like, and then you realize I'm next up at bat. Like, immediately, that's what crossed my mind, and I'm all fucked up about it. And just yesterday, my dad called me, but I've got their name saved as mom, and so my mom's flashes mom, and I have this weird fucking trauma body experience, right? I'm like, oh, I got to change it to dad. Like, why don't I just do that instead of fucking constantly reacting? And so we're all a victim of something. So then my argument to that is, and so what? You could either continue to get reinforcement from people like, oh man, Mikey, I'm so sorry that you're a victim of that or this abuse or that abuse, Bedros, must really suck for you. And that is a way of getting attention. That might feel good. That might give a little dopamine hit. Or you can look for the serotonin, which is also the feel-good chemical in the body. Serotonin is, I'm going to accomplish something good, something positive, something that takes a lot of effort and over a long period of time. Dopamine is scrolling and seeing a lot of people like my shit on social media and getting that dopamine hit. Or maybe getting a scratcher and winning $100. That's a dopamine hit. Serotonin is coming up with an idea, executing that for months and years, and then crossing the finish line, that is a serotonin hit. So you're a victim, and you're going to tell people that story over and over again and reinforce your victimhood story because you get some kind of dopamine hit from it, you piece of shit. I think people should realize what a piece of shit they are when they put themselves in a victim position and hold themselves there, because they are an example to someone, their kids, their wives, their employees, their coworkers, their friends, and you're an example. No, you're not. You're a cautionary tale. You should know that. No one else has ever told them, so allow me to tell them that you're a cautionary tale, you piece of shit, if you're a victim. Because I'm a victim of a lot of abuse. I'm a victim of sexual abuse, physical abuse, mental abuse, you name it. There's things I don't even want to talk about on this show that I fucking seen and have experienced, and other people have too, so it's not a boo-hoo me. Stop acting like a victim. Stop getting positive reinforcement from that shit. Do something that's worthwhile and positive to serve humanity because you're a liability. And remember that you're an example to people. People are watching, man. And like, I have this like belief that my son and daughter like have a constant feed on their iPhone of what dad is doing right now. Is he congruent to the man that he says he is? Does he wake up every morning and work out and eat right and do this thing and serve humanity? Or is he a piece of shit when no one's looking, right? And how do they find out? Well, through karma. Karma will come and haunt them 10x. Like whatever I do, I believe, my belief is that karma will come and haunt them. So the more you carry yourself as a victim, the more you stop and tell everybody your sorry-ass story of a victim, the more you reinforce that victimhood. Go out and do something positive, serve humanity, and understand that you're either going to be an example or a cautionary tale, and I choose to be an example so that I can be an asset and not a liability. And if more people looked at it that way, and if more people were harder on those idiots who were that way. I wish people were harder on me. The first person that was ever hard on me was Jim Franco, my mentor that I told you about. He called me kid, and I was like, well, I have 3 jobs because I don't have enough personal training clients. He's like, no, you have 3 jobs because you don't know how to sell. You're an order taker. No one ever told me that I was an order taker. He goes, you're an order taker. He goes, you're no different than a waitress. And he used the word waitress, not a waiter. Like he fucking made it hurt.
Yeah.
You're no different than a waitress at a restaurant. Someone goes in, they're going to eat. He goes, you just took my order that I wanted personal training 3 times a week for 6 months. Because I was like, Jim Franco, I sold you. So how can you say I'm not good? He goes, no, you're an order taker. You're no different than a waitress. He goes, selling is persuasion. Selling is getting the other person to think like you do. And you don't know how to sell, kid. And that's why you have 3 jobs. I wish more people would have been harder on me. Maybe my life would have been just as good, but sooner.
Yeah.
But instead, everyone wants to reinforce the victim in you and say, oh, it's okay. You know, you had a tough life. Yeah. Fuck you. We all had a tough life.
Yeah. The coddling, no doubt about it. Man, that's super, super good advice, and I appreciate you sharing it. Is there a single predictor of success in your mind or from your experience?
I heard about a study that said that the people that are most successful have these 3 traits. They believe they're better than everybody else. They have massive control of their impulses. They have impulse control. And then they have a high levels of insecurity.
So an arrogant, insecure, disciplined asshole.
Correct.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, that is the highest indicator of success.
Yeah, that makes good sense.
And then when I actually thought about it, I have all 3.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I definitely feel I'm better than everybody else, like in the category that I play in, right? Yeah. I definitely have massive impulse control. And then I have this massive fear of ever going broke and being that broke fucking immigrant living in Section 8 housing again.
Yeah, it's powerful stuff. Anything else that you want to throw down while we're still talking?
No, man, I just want to thank you for the opportunity. And just, it's been as someone who's a fan of your show and watches and listens to your show, it's really cool to be able to sit here across from you.
Man, that's humbling as all hell to hear that, and it's an honor to have you here. I could talk to you all day about business, but I know it's not all about that. But yeah, thank you for carving the time out and coming and doing it.
Yes, sir.
You have a parting gift here, as all guests get.
Holy smokes!
Thank you to John Johnston and Champion Choice Silver. For
wow, man,
the parting gift for coming on the show. So
this is my second
now that you're in Texas,
belt buckle. Yeah.
Go full rodeo style when you get some barbecue later, and
I love that.
Flash that at the counter; they'll give you 10% off.
Thank you, Mike. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely,
man.
Thanks for coming. Again.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, appreciate it. For those of you listening, I hope you gained as much insight as I did, and enjoyed the conversation as much as I did. If not, feel free to choke yourself. And until next time, this is Mic Drop.